Peanuts! Peanuts!
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another installment of the Bat Around. You turned me way too far down. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. With me, as always, is Zach Goodman, my co-host and producer extraordinaire. It is a lovely, albeit hot, Saturday here in Baltimore. Zach, would you kindly close that door?
I will do that. We never do that. We should probably
start
remembering to do that.
Yeah, we never remember to do that. Got 2 reads for Glenn Clark Radio today. Anyway, welcome to the Bat Around. Again, I'm your host, Paul Valley. He's Zach Goodman. Crazy win for the Orioles last night. We're going to get into all of it here in just a moment. Just want to remind you that the Bat Around is brought to you every week by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. The ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. So, Zach, let's, you know what? I want to say this first. We're going to get into the game and all the craziness that ensued in last night's game. A game that Zach was at but left early because he's a bum.
I had to get here for the show, Paul.
Right. It was a long game. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes into the game, and they were in the 5th inning.
Yeah,
they were in the 5th inning.
I know. It was like it was 10 o'clock, and the average time of a baseball game is probably about 3 hours for the most part. And it was like the middle of the 6th at 10 o'clock, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm never gonna make it to the show in the morning if we don't get out here soon. So I left in like the 8th. I saw most of it.
And still barely made it here by the skin of his teeth. But
nah, that's not true.
Yeah, I'm watching the game. I look at the clock. It says 9:45, and I'm like, this game started at 7:05, and they're only in the 5th inning. It was nuts. But I want to take a backtrack here a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about Cedric Mullins, because Cedric Mullins has been sitting against lefties or batting lower in the order, and he's only hitting 208 against lefties. Last year, he hit 277 against lefties. Mm-hmm. To me, Cedric Mullins is an everyday player. To me, he should be in your lineup every single game.
I'm with you. He's not a platoon guy. He's just not.
He's not a platoon guy. And my argument to that is that you play Rougned Odor 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And he hits 208 against. He's hitting. Actually, he was the only guy without a hit yesterday. We're going to get into that. He's hitting just about 200 against everybody.
Yeah.
And he plays 5 days a week. You're going to tell me that Cedric Mullins, because he hits 208 against lefties, is a platoon player? I don't buy it.
Right.
The guy's 3rd in baseball in steals. He's got close to 25 doubles. He's going to finish the year with 15 home runs and 30 stolen bases.
And it's one of the WAR leaders on the Orioles.
Right, which is still a damn good season. Oh, and by the way, he catches everything. Right? And you're going to tell me, well, he should only be playing against righties, which would still have him play 4 to 5 days a week. No. Cedric Mullins should be in your lineup every single day. Because if he walks, if he gets hit by a pitch, if he reaches on an error, he can steal second base.
Right.
He can give you Gold Glove defense in center field. And he can still run into one. Right. The benefits of having Cedric Mullins play every day far outweigh the fact that he might go 0 for 4 with a strikeout against 0 for 3 against a left-handed pitcher before the reliever comes in.
Right.
At worst. But here's the other thing: they keep playing Ryan McKenna against left-handed starters and moving Mullins down in the order or not playing him. Right. Mm-hmm. Cedric Mullins against left-handed starters, and this was before the game the other day, so these numbers may have changed, but before the last left-handed starter that they faced, Cedric Mullins was batting .229 against left-handed starters. Ryan McKenna, .212.
Yeah.
It's because Ryan McKenna hits .318 versus lefties overall, so what he does against the lefty relievers, and a very small sample size, that they're taking Cedric Mullins out of the lineup. But the problem is, you're only going to face that left-handed starter 2, maybe 3 times.
Right.
And if he hits better than McKenna against the left-handed starter, why are you not playing him?
Well, I think the whole point of Ryan McKenna, and the whole point Ryan McKenna's on this team for, is to be a guy who can play once or twice a week. He can pinch run. He can come in defensive situations. He's not a guy you want to platoon with a guy who was 30-30 last year. Not a guy who has 3.1 WAR this year, if you're looking at Cedric Mullins. I mean, the numbers, they far outclass Ryan McKenna. Ryan McKenna has a 316 on-base percentage for the entire year, and of course that includes righties too. Mm-hmm. But the point is that Ryan McKenna is a platoon bat, and Cedric Mullins is not. And to treat Cedric Mullins that way, even to bat him 8th, like Brandon Hyde did, I think, 2 weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago, I still think that's an abomination. I don't think that should ever happen. But the fact that he's being sat and platooned is just kind of disrespectful to him, and in all seriousness. I mean, this is a guy who, like you said, hit a lot better against lefties last year, and maybe let him figure it out. Maybe give him more of these situations, and maybe the more experience he gets against them and the more times he sees them, he'll start to improve and get back to what he was last year.
And not to mention the fact that, okay, if Mullins is struggling against lefties, but you have him in the lineup, there's still the opportunity for him to lay down a bunt.
Right, sure.
Or squib one and get a base hit out of it.
He's done that so many times.
This is a guy that should be in your lineup every single day, and it leads me to the high decision-making, some of the calls that he makes, and we're going to get into an Orioles banter. They've had me scratching my head this past week and the week before, and for the better part of the season, to be perfectly honest with you. And the Orioles, look, they're 5 games above 500, so nobody is... We're nitpicking because it's been a fantastic season, and there's some other stuff I do want to address too because I kind of get. I think people are thinking I'm getting a little out of hand on the twits and on
the
twits and on the social media in general. That I do kind of want to address if I remember to do it in the show, but that's neither here nor there. Cedric Mullins is not a platoon player. He should be playing every single day as I pound my fist on the table. Now, getting to last night's game. Jordan Lyles, for the boys, gives them 4 innings, 4 runs on 9 hits and 89 pitches. So that was not the best Jordan Lyles outing. And you're watching him kind of not play well, not pitch well last night, and you're thinking, with the way that this offense is going, this is not a good thing. We needed you to be at the top of your game. They call up Kyle Stowers. They put him in the 5-hole. Flies out to the warning track his first at bat, records 2 base hits. The Orioles down 2-0. What was it, in the second inning?
I believe it was the second inning.
Down 2-0 in the second inning. Jorge Mateo, who is becoming a star right before our very eyes, mashes a 3-run homer, gets so excited that he jumps over first base, has to go back and touch the bag. And that was just the beginning. Jordan Lyles goes out, gives up a run the next inning. He gives up 2 runs, right? So now it's 4-3 in the third inning. The Orioles score 3 more runs. Thanks to they had 2 outs in the third inning, and Cedric Mullins comes up to the plate. He rips a double down the right field line. It should have been. He legged it out. Right,
yep. Hustle double.
It was a hustle double. Rutschman comes up and deposits one deep into center field. And then Anthony Santander. Did Santander go deep on the
Santander was before Rutschman. He was the second home run of the night, I believe.
Okay, so I'm getting my innings mixed up.
Yeah, so Santander was before Rutschman. I believe he was the one who after Mateo, he was the second home run after Mateo.
So Mateo hit the 3-run homer in the second.
Correct. Yes.
And then I think it was Mullins got out to end the inning. Then Rutschman comes up to start the next inning, and I think he walked or...
I think he singled. He singled, and then Santander hit
he singled
the
to left field, and it was a night. That was a beautiful single.
It was.
He was behind in the count. It's a fastball in the outside corner. He just flicks the bat out and pokes one into left field. Then Santander comes up, been struggling over his last 17 or over his last 14, and there's a 2-run homer. Yeah. He had 3 hits last night. Rutschman had 3 hits last night. Austin Hayes, 3 hits last night. 3 doubles in his last 2 games.
About time.
Still not good enough to win me take the rake. Spoiler there. Santander, Mountcastle, Mateo, 3+ RBIs each. O's 2, 3, 4 hitters. So we're talking Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle. Combined to go 8 for 15 with 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 9 RBI, and 8 runs scored.
It's pretty good.
Production. It was an awesome night for offense. Bullpen, are you getting worried about the bullpen? Because...
Yeah,
look,
I am.
This is something we need to address also. Keegan Akin hasn't been good for 2 months.
No.
Right?
No.
He was really good to start the year. Excuse me. And he has... And his ERA actually went down last night.
Mm-hmm.
His ERA is 2.60 on the year, so he looks like he's been good this year. Rougned Odor, he's coming into a game and he's giving you 2 innings. He gives up a home run, but he gives up that home run and he comes into the game with a runner on second base, right? So it's a 2-run homer, and he doesn't get charged with that. He only gets charged with the home run. He's given up a lot more home runs, a lot more base hits, letting a lot of inherited runners score, and last night gives up 5 runs, but his ERA is still sparkling because they were all unearned. Now, look, that's not letting Rougned Odor or Ryan Mountcastle off the hook. It's a 40-foot throw. Odor has to be able to hit his first baseman in the chest. Mountcastle has to be able to pick that ball. Right. Rutschman can't have that glove. And look, all catchers get flagged for that at some point, right? But Rutschman needs to not have the glove so close to the plate that it gets hit by a bat on a swing. Again, we're nitpicking. The Orioles won a game 15-10, but the bigger issue here is that the bullpen has faltered each of the last 3 games and cost the Orioles the games. Almost cost them last night. But, for example, the Orioles are up 10-4 after the 3rd inning yesterday, and then going to the bottom of the 4th, it's 10-9. It's 10-9.
Right.
You know, this is, and I'm sorry, that was in the 5th. That was in the 5th inning. But even still, it's, what are they going to do about the bullpen? Because it's not like they have guys at AAA knocking on the door.
I mean, I think the clear and easy decision would be to replace DL Hall, replace Keegan Akin with DL Hall and make that swap. You can bring up DL Hall as a long reliever. He's currently, they wanted to get him a taste with that one start he made, and then, bring him up as a reliever for the rest of the year. And that seems like the obvious decision to me. And you talk about Keegan Akin, and he's a guy who, frankly, in April and May, it looked like he had turned a major corner. It looked like this could be a long reliever, a lefty especially, that could be really impactful for the Orioles. Could be really impactful. Just come out there every time and, give you 3 or 4 innings of really, really good pitching. And so far, these past 2 months or so, he's been terrible. He's just been, every time he comes into the game, he looks like, 2021 Keegan Akin, not in 2020 Keegan Akin. He doesn't look like the guy that we saw in April and May. So that concerns me, number one. That's definitely a concern. And DL Hall, maybe he won't be as effective as we hope to start his relief career. I mean, this is a new thing for him, and the command and control has been clear issues from him throughout his entire career. So I'm not saying that's like a perfect swap and everything's going to be perfect and beautiful after that, but it could certainly help. And then the rest of the guys, I mean, you see a lot of other ones like Brian Baker's really been struggling lately. I'm starting to get concerned about the depth, and I talked about it before with the usage of guys like CNL Perez. I think he was vastly overused to start the year. And you look at Felix Bautista, he at some point will start to wear down too. So the bullpen in the, at the end of the season is going to start getting taxed. It's going to be really hard to get these guys to feel as healthy as possible and be pitching as many innings as the Orioles are going to need them to down the stretch. And that's really the concern for me, is just overuse of your better guys, because the other guys in the back of the bullpen aren't exactly performing the way they should be.
Right. And what it comes down to for me is that you're basically looking at this is a result of your starting pitching not being – the starting pitching's been okay this year. They've kept the Orioles in a lot of games, right? It's the 3rd week of August, and you are still babying your starters.
Yeah.
I understand where the game is going, right? I get that – everybody throws 100 now, and you have all these high-energy, big electric arms in your bullpens, and you want to get them into the ball game. So if your starter can give you 6 innings or even 5 innings, it's considered okay.
Right.
I think that if you don't have 2 or 3 starters that can consistently go 6 to 8 innings with the occasional complete game, that you're doing yourself a disservice. And I look at what happened in the game on Wednesday, and then what happened in the game on Thursday. More so the game on Wednesday, right? Mm-hmm. Austin Voth goes 6 innings, allows 2 hits, no runs. I think he only walked 1. Right? He introduced this new slurve type of thing.
Yeah, he's been unreal for the past few starts.
The curveball's been phenomenal. The fastball spin rate is elite, and he's got this new sweeping curve that or this new sweeping slider that that looked really impactful. He got I think he got 6 outs on that pitch the other day. But even still, he's given you a great ball game.
Yeah. Now
the Orioles, they only had 1 hit in the first 6 innings of that game, and it came in the 5th, which is a whole other thing. But he has 86 pitches through 6 innings, no runs allowed, only 2 hits. Mm-hmm. and Hyde doesn't send him back out for the 7th.
Yeah.
And then what happens in the 7th? The Orioles bullpen gives up 6 runs in the 7th inning. Now look, your bullpen's is what got you there, and I get that. But why are you not? Any other pitcher worth their salt, if they give you 6 innings of shutout ball on 86 pitches, they'll go back out there for the 7th inning. Can you imagine Buck Showalter trying to pull Max Scherzer after 6 innings of 86 pitches?
No.
At 86 pitches, Max Scherzer's thinking, I got a complete game shutout in me.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he's thinking. He can get through the next 3 innings and 40 pitches and throw 126 pitches. But with the Orioles, we're pulling both. We're pulling both after 6 innings on only 86 pitches. Mm-hmm. The next day, Spencer Watkins goes 5 2/3 innings. He gives up 1 run in that 6th inning on 80 pitches, and we're pulling him. Now, look, the bullpen didn't falter until the 8th inning, and we're going to get into that in the Orioles banter. But why can't Spencer Watkins finish that game? Now, look, I get it. He gave up the home run, and he gave up a base hit, but he deserves the opportunity to get through that inning. It's not his fault that your offense hasn't scored in a week.
I mean, again, I think we're really going to see the effects of this in September. And if they make it to, October, I think that's going to be a huge issue for them, is the bullpen is being taxed because of poor decisions with the starting pitching. And I think it's going to become a problem, and it might already be a problem. And I think maybe you saw it a bit last night. They gave up 10 runs. They won, but they gave up 10 runs. Mm-hmm. I know Keegan Akin was half of it, but my point is here that they're taxed, and they're not letting their starters go long enough. And now, look, Austin Voth is not Max Scherzer. We get that. We get that, but the fact is that 86 pitches, you should be going out there for another inning. There is no way that you should be pulled with 86 pitches.
It's mid to late August.
Right.
And he made 19 relief appearances for 19 relief appearances for the Nationals. He's made 15 appearances for you, 11 starts. This guy's arm is stretched out.
Right. Very.
He can go out there in the middle of August and give you a 7th inning there. If he can throw 86 pitches, what's 14 more to get him to 100 and get him through the 7th inning? Right. And it's not the reason the Orioles lost that game. The Orioles lost, the bullpen did give up 6 runs, but the Orioles lost games this past week because they weren't scoring. Right. They had a perfect game taken into the 9th inning against them last Sunday. Monday they come out and they don't get a hit till the 4th inning. Tuesday they come out and I can't remember what the hell they did, but they won on Tuesday. Wednesday they don't get a hit till the 6th inning. Thursday they don't do anything until the 5th inning. And it's like, we're really doing this again and again and again, and they didn't score till the 8th inning. And don't get me started on what happened in that 8th inning and the 9th inning for that matter. Again, Orioles banter. But this also leads me to a point you just said. We know that Voth isn't Max Scherzer. Mm-hmm. I made a comparison yesterday because you brought up DL Hall and his command issues. And I said Randy Johnson, in his ages 26, 27, and 28 seasons, led the major leagues in walks. Mm-hmm. Each of those 3 years. He was 26, 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Led the majors in walks each of those years. What did he do in the 16 seasons after that? He won 5 Cy Youngs. He finished second 3 times, and he finished third once. Yeah. Struck out over 4,000 batters and won over 250 games in those next 15 seasons. Mm-hmm. Right? This is a guy who had serious controls. Jim Palmer, serious control issues.
Yeah.
DL Hall just got his first taste of the major leagues at 23 years old. And yeah, he has command issues. Why would you not give him every opportunity to figure it out as a starting pitcher? And this isn't a gripe against the Orioles because they've already said he's going to be a reliever to help us the rest of this year and keep his innings in check. But he's going back to being a full-time starter next season. But there's all these people, and Stan's one of them. God love Stan. I don't agree with him. There's all these people saying that DL Hall should be a reliever. No, you let him figure it out. Because, and look, I know that he's not going to be Randy Johnson. When I say Randy Johnson did this, that doesn't mean I'm saying if you give DL Hall the same opportunity, he becomes Randy Johnson. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if they had given up on Randy Johnson at the same time the people are giving up on DL Hall because he just can't throw enough strikes, he's not in the Hall of Fame. Same thing with Jim Palmer. I'm not saying that DL Hall is going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher, but you have to give him more of an opportunity to figure it out. That he's 23 years old. You know, this isn't like a 30-year-old guy who spent 6 years in the big leagues and he just can't hack it. This isn't Andrew Miller, who legitimately was an awful starter, and they had to turn him into a reliever, and then he became fantastic. This is a guy who, when he's in the strike zone, they can't touch him.
Yeah.
They can't touch him.
Well, I'd question if the Orioles did say, "Hey, we're going to make him a full-time reliever, and that's going to transpire into the future years, 2023 and beyond. That's going to be the thing for him." Then I would say, why did you develop him as a starter then for the past 3 years of the Mike Elias regime and more? So that would be my first question. Why were you letting him start all these years if you thought in the end he might be a reliever? And he might be. But I do agree with you. I lean towards Stan's opinion that he might be a reliever long term. But I agree with you in the fact that they have to give him a shot to start. They have to. That's how they developed him. That's how they did this. That's how they were looking at this 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Why now are you going to say, and I get it for the playoffs, if you want to make him if this is a playoff thing only, that makes complete sense.
And a way to limit his innings.
And a way to limit his innings. Then that's perfect. I think that makes a lot of sense. But you can't come out in 2023 and say automatically DL Hall is a bullpen guy now. Because you developed him as a starter for the past 3 years. It makes no sense.
And here's the other thing, right? Kyle Bradish, electric stuff, big league stuff, right? Yeah. It's all there. Can't consistently, he lacks command consistently.
Yeah.
But he got how many starts and how many opportunities to go out there where he just imploded, where he looked good in the first inning or two and then gives up 5 runs in the third or fourth inning, right? Or he looks terrible in the first inning, gives up 4 runs, and either way, not making it into the 5th inning. But you kept trotting him out there, and then he got until he got hurt. And then as soon as he's healthy again, you're trotting him back out there, right? That's what you need to be doing with DL Hall and more.
1,000%.
Give him the opportunity to figure it out. Now, if he goes all year next year, if he's a starter all year next year, and he pitches to a 5 ERA because he walks 95 hitters,
right,
over the course of the season, or 120, or however much it would be in 30 starts. Okay, then you're like, you know what, man? We gave you an entire season. We sent you out there every 5th day. And you just walked 5.5 guys per 9 innings. We can't continue to let.
I mean, even if you're striking out 15 per 9, like because I think in the minors is 14.6 right now. So yeah, I mean, there's definite problems there. Even if you strike out that many guys, but you're walking as many as he might, that would definitely be a problem.
Right. And so but when I say stuff like this, when I say if Max Scherzer went out there, gave you 6 innings of scoreless ball on 86 pitches, he'd be allowed to go back out for the 7th and probably the 8th. I'm not saying that Austin Voth is Max Scherzer. I'm not saying that DL Hall is Randy Johnson. What I'm saying is that these guys have earned the opportunity to continue to do what they just did. Sure. And DL Hall hasn't been given enough opportunity to prove that he can become something like that. I'm not saying that they are these guys. I'm just saying look at these guys, and if you had done what you're doing to the Orioles pitchers, they aren't the pitchers that they are. They don't become that. So, and I got into it a little bit with somebody last night who's a follower of the show, and I wanted to address it because I did get a little bit defensive. I'm so used to people attacking me for an opinion, and then I have to strike back, that sometimes I get my knee-jerk reaction is to be defensive, and then it's like, whoa, man, I'm just having a conversation with you. So I wanted to apologize for that because I know that I tend to do that sometimes, and it's just, again, my knee-jerk reaction because social media there's a lot of keyboard cowboys out there.
A lot of them.
A lot of keyboard cowboys out there. So, and I used to think, like Rock and I'm like, I'm not comparing myself to Rock Kabatko, okay? But Rock, I used to be like, man, he is so short with people on social media. And then I realized it gets annoying. It gets tiresome when everything you say, somebody has something smart to say. Just like that's why I don't go after Buster Olney all that often, because anytime the Orioles win a game or anytime the Orioles do something big, you'll see 100 different people tag Buster Olney. Is this bad for baseball? It's like, he doesn't care.
It gets pretty tiresome, honestly.
It's like, this is annoying. He doesn't care. Yeah. Anyway, Orioles win a ball game last night, 15-10. Bullpen implodes, but kind of settled in after Keegan Akin gave up those 5 runs in the 5th inning, and then they only gave up 1 run the rest of the way. So the bullpen kind of settled in last night. The offense, man, 6 doubles, 5 home runs, 11 extra base hits. Their most extra base hits in a game since August 16th of 2015 when they pounded the Athletics. I think it was something like 17-2. I remember watching that game at watering hole near where I live.
At a watering hole.
At a watering hole near where I live. But a big win for the Orioles last night. Kyle Stowers makes his re-debut. His debut as a member of the 40-man roster. His home debut. Gets 2 hits. Over 106 miles an hour off the bat.
This to me felt like his MLB debut.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
I didn't really feel like what he did in Toronto was all that legit because he wasn't really on the roster. He wasn't. So
and he got 2 starts on 4.
Right. This tonight, or last night I should say, felt like the actual MLB debut for him.
And I can kind of understand when I look back on it now with Stowers in Toronto and then only playing him in 2 of the 4 games. He's not going to be part of your team after those 4 games, right? And how do you explain to the guys who are there every single day? Well, I'm going to play him while he's here.
That's a great point.
Like, and Elias even said not Elias. Brandon Hyde said last night he's going to get a lot of playing time from now to the end of the season, especially in the outfield. So last night really kind of felt like his debut. He gets 2 hits in his Oriole Park debut. Richie Martin also called up with Taron Vavra going on the paternity list. We're going to talk about that later because some people were like, why Martin instead of Gunnar Henderson? And we'll discuss that. Odor also only member in the lineup to go hitless last night. He did have to sacrifice fly and a hard lineup, but he also made a costly error in that 5th inning. We'll talk about that more. We have Stan the Fan Charles coming up here in just a matter of moments. We're going to have Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun at 11 o'clock. Signing off with Zach Goodman in between those 2 segments. The payoff pitch around the league, and then Orioles banter at about, I want to say 11:20-ish. And then we'll do Take the Rake. I'm going to tell you, I think I think Zach pulled this one out this past week. But great show ahead of you today here on the Bat Around. Just want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. That's buyatoyota.com. Joining us now in our new studios here in Towson, or at least on the line in our new studios here in Towson, he is Stan the Fan Charles. Stan, it's Paul. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. There was a crazy game last night. Did you stay up to watch the whole thing, Stan?
I was at the ballpark for 7 innings last night.
Zach was there for 8 innings.
Exhausting. It was an exhausting game.
It was.
Yeah, and not just exhausting for how long it was, but Stan, it was also mentally taxing, emotionally taxing, because the Orioles take this big 10-4 lead in the 5th inning, or in the 5th inning, and then they immediately give up 5 runs, and it's 10-9, and you're like, are we really doing this? But then they came out, they put up 4 more runs there in the 6th inning, and they were off to the races, and they ended up winning the game 15-10. 11 extra base hits last night. Stan, what were your thoughts? Actually, what I want to know is, are you concerned about the bullpen after the last 3 games with the way they've kind of imploded? Coming in after, not last night notwithstanding, but coming in after a decent start by a starter, coming in and kind of imploding and giving up the game.
Not really. I mean, our bullpen has been pretty darn good. They're overused. There's no question about it. It's a fine line Brandon Hyde is trying to thread there. I mean, I saw your notes that what you wanted to talk about, and taking Voth out and taking who was the other pitcher you mentioned after 5 in the 3rd inning?
Spencer Watkins.
Those guys. I mean, I understand what you're saying. That boy, it would have been nice to get 7 out of them, but they're guys that are pitching like way out over their skis as to their history.
Yeah.
And those games are close games when those guys come into the games. And if you wait a little too long, the starter can cough it up.
Yeah.
So I don't have a real problem with that, and I'm not really that worried about the bullpen.
Okay. Well, and I guess my overall point is that we're in the latter parts of August now. I feel like these guys. Right. He's not pulling, and you're right. He's not pulling them out because they're not stretched out. He's pulling them out because they're, like you said, they're playing over their skis, as you said. But at what point have they done enough to be trusted to go out there for another inning, because Voth has been doing this for, the better part of a month and a half now. Spencer Watkinson's coming off the IL, has pitched to a sub-3 ERA in like 7 or 8 starts. I feel like at some point you have to say, you know what, you've earned the next inning.
But can't you just look at it the other way and say what they're doing with those guys is working?
Yeah.
You're looking at it glass half full. I'm looking at it, you're half empty. I'm looking at it as half full, that you're maximizing what those guys are capable of.
Yeah,
that's my belief. And our bullpen, I think there's a belief that you're much better off sort of giving a reliever a clean inning. The guy who's really worried me out of that bullpen for 2 months now is Keegan Akin.
Yeah, Zach and I opened the show talking about that.
He looks exactly like he did as a failed starter. Mm-hmm. He's lost a lot of trust in my eyes. Having said that, last night he probably deserved a better fate. The Odor error, which I really think is a Mountcastle error. That play's got to be made by your first baseman.
It does.
That throw wasn't that terrible.
He bounced it from 40 feet.
Then the catcher's interference. I didn't bounce it from 40 feet. It bounced a foot in front of Mountcastle.
I'm saying, but
concentrate better.
The throw was made from 40 feet away. It's not like he was making a throw from the hole. He made the throw from.
Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay, so anyway, Akin is a real concern. And then he had the unfortunate thing with the catcher's interference on McGuire, who should be an easy out for Akin, but Akin just is not. He's not as crisp. His pace isn't what it was. His stuff doesn't seem as lively. He looks like he's put weight back on to me. All those things are, adding up to. He's lost a lot of my trust in meaningful situations.
Stan, what would be your plan there? Is he the perfect swap for DL Hall? Do you just bring up Hall and have him take that spot? Is that an option? Is that a DFA? What is that role for you for Keegan Akin going forward?
That's a darn good question, Zach. That is sort of the role that I see, and the other role I see him in is what Paul's alluding to, is now if you've got a weapon like that, I might be a little bit more inclined to go have both go into that 7th inning the other day in Toronto, knowing you got a real weapon out of that bullpen. But, again, that weapon comes fraught with those control issues, and at some point in time, DL Hall is going to have to sort of make people comfortable with the fact he can come in to meaningful games in those times. But that's kind of makes sense. It's sort of like the swap out yesterday of Stowers for Brett Phillips. And Paul, I know you asked me 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago, what Phillips was doing here. I guess it was just biding time.
Keeping the seat warm.
Keeping the seat warm and swapping out, a veteran like Mancini and bringing in a guy who's been there before. I thought I saw the makings of more of a platoon situation with McKenna and him evolving, but that really didn't take place.
Yeah, and the DFAing Phillips and having Stowers come up, it now gives you the opportunity to keep Ryan McKenna in that 4th outfielder role. He was getting a lot of playing time the past week or so, and Ryan McKenna, I think, excels when he is in that 4th outfielder role. But I think that you can see a lot more weaknesses if he starts playing every day. A lot of people think, well, no, if you play him every day, you'll see his strength start to come out. I think that you start to see more holes in the swing and start to figure out how to better get him out the more you see him. So I'm happy with McKenna back.
You're also trying to match him up against left-handed pitching. It wasn't a strict platoon situation, but you were trying to get Mullins out against really tough left-handers. That's how it started, and now it's evolved to him gaining more playing time, and deserving more playing time. But I agree with you. I think if all of a sudden you said, hey, let's trade Austin Hayes and put McKenna in every day, you'd see weaknesses in his game.
Yeah, now Now let's talk about Austin Hayes, because he had 3 hits last night and a walk. He had a double the night before. His swing decisions still don't look great. A lot of people think that, and when I say a lot of people, I'm saying a lot of fans I interact with seem to think that he might be hurt. He hasn't been a productive player for 2 months now. Are we reaching a point with Austin Hayes where it's like it's time to put up or shut up, or is it just one of the more prolonged slumps that we've seen and you think maybe he's starting to break out?
I'm not really sure, and I will tell you that every time he would get hit on his hand or wrist area, he'd fling the bat down, and I've got to believe the sort of the residue of those. I think he got like 3 hit by pitches in about a 2 to 3 week period
in the same
spot.
And
I got to believe, I just have to believe that the player we saw in April, May into early June is still there, and he's been playing through some things. But you know something? He's a bright guy. He's been around a little while. He sees Stowers come up yesterday, and he knows that there's more coming, and he's got to start to produce. I don't know. Maybe something woke up with him in that. Maybe his hands are just about healed. I don't know what it is, but he certainly hasn't been the player he was from like July 15th last year. That's 2.5 months. And the first 2.5 months this year, that's a full season. And he was looking like not a superstar, but a real solid regular who gives you terrific defense. I can't really put my finger on it, but clearly the club has played through his downturn period along with Mountcastle,
Yeah.
Now Mountcastle woke up with that home run last night. It was a monstrous.
Oh yeah, that was a moon shot, and he's actually got 3 home runs in the last 10 days, I think it is. So his bat's starting to wake up. And Stan, the Orioles offense in general woke up last night. They had scored 15 runs total from last Sunday through Thursday, and then they scored 15 runs last night on 18 hits, 11 extra base hits. Now, Stan, I've been following the Orioles long enough that it seems like every time they have an offensive outbreak like that, the next night they kind of come out and the bats go cold. Why do you think that is? And is that something that you're concerned about going into tonight, that they'll revert back to what they were doing before?
I mean, you'd have to define what. If you ask that question, what's your answer to it? Because I have no answer to that. I really don't. I don't sit there believing that, the Orioles scored 15. They won't score 15 today, but that doesn't mean they won't score. Now the problem today is they're facing a much better pitcher.
Right.
Michael Wacha, when he's healthy, is a pretty darn good pitcher. On the face of it, this matchup is not a great matchup for the Orioles with Bradish with the ERA of 6-something versus, Wacha right now. But I don't think it's just that, you'd have to go back and study, and I'm not an analytics person, but who were the pitchers the day they have an outbreak like this versus who's the pitcher the next day? Just to ask it out of hand, I don't know how to answer a question like that. I don't believe that teams just, they scored 15 tomorrow, they're going to get shut out. I don't believe that's, I think it has to do with the game that day and who you're up against.
Yeah, no, and I guess there's no real answer for that question. It's just something that I've noticed in all my years following this team, that they seem to go out and they'll put out.
You've noticed it for years.
I've noticed it for years. I've had so many conversations with my dad about this. It's just it's I don't think it has really anything to do with anything other than it's just a weird a weird thing that happens. Where you go out and you tear the cover off the ball.
Well, like an outbreak, like 15 runs doesn't happen that often. So,
no, it doesn't. But
after that game, you're clearly going to go back to scoring 3 to 5 runs somewhere in that ballpark.
And we'll see. And
I think it's just
coincidence. It's just it's something that
to me it is.
I've noticed.
To me it is. Yeah. Okay.
Now Kyle Stowers, so last night, Stan, we kind of look at it as Kyle Stowers' re-debut, because he debuted in Toronto out of necessity because Santander wasn't vaccinated at the time. He now is. Stowers makes his home debut last night. 2 base hits, a deep fly out to right field in his first at bat. The 2 base hits over 106 miles an hour off the bat. What is
that base hit? That base hit almost took Cutter Crawford's head off. I mean, it was really a rocket. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he smoked both of those balls back up the box. What kind of an impact could Kyle Stowers have on this lineup? I think it's coincidence that he joins a team last night and then they score 15 runs. I think that's coincidence. But what kind of an impact can he have? And it kind of gives you that opportunity to not have a weak bat in your lineup in the outfield.
Well, certainly, look, I think Mike Elias, not that he's copycatting anything, he sees what Atlanta did, with Michael Harris a couple of months ago and then Vaughn Grissom, and he sees what the Mets did with Blaine Beatty, and I think he just said, you know what? It's time to roll the dice and bring up one of our better prospects right now who really is ready,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he absolutely had
the guy this doesn't speak real well for is Yusniel Diaz as having any real, meaning to this organization.
Well, yeah, I think that his days in this organization are numbered, to be honest with you. I don't think he has an impact at all. Somebody else who's had an impact, obviously, and Stan, I wrote in the notes. I mean, we could do a segment every week just on Adley Rutschman and how good he has been. He's been as advertised.
He was horrible last night. He had that catcher's interference,
Yeah, he was absolutely
he's horrible. Yeah.
Inexcusable.
Luke texted me after Bogarts was thrown out. I couldn't see it because I'm behind home plate up in the press box. And then I didn't happen to look at the TV screen, but he said he got Bogarts thrown out of that game by stealing that pitch.
Oh yeah, his pitch framing is otherworldly. And then did you see him throw out the runner at second base on the wild pitch?
Unbelievable.
Just an incredible play there. He gets 3 hits last night, a home run, finishes a triple shy of the cycle, which, I mean, that happens a lot. Looks like he's going to be a top 2 vote getter for Rookie of the Year and earn that arbitration, that early year of arbitration. Should the Orioles even be concerned about that? I feel like this is a guy that we've seen, they're only scratching the surface with him, and we've seen how good he is. Shouldn't they be thinking extension for him, if not now, then in this offseason?
I don't know where the world changed with why it was necessary for Tampa to give Wander Franco an extension.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for giving the player a comfort level, and I know that it only makes sense for the player if you're buying out some of those arbitration years.
Right.
But it's not like I feel like I'm in a huge hurry to have to do something with him.
Right.
I mean, he's tied to the ball club. I would not like them to do what they did with Trey, which is never, make a real strong effort to keep him even 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Or Manning, for that matter.
Got interrupted. But that got interrupted a little bit with, Trey's illness.
Right.
The club might have been more inclined right at that time to try, but I'm not sure. The Machado thing, believe it or not, there was a method to their madness there. Peter Angelos was concerned about those back-to-back knee injuries, knee surgeries that he had, and they did make one strong effort to get him, but it wasn't in the ballpark that Machado and his people were thinking about. I don't see any lingering ill effects if they don't do it. Wouldn't upset me if they did it. I think there's a time and a place for that. And I would think that sometime in the next 12 months, you'll see something done with him.
Yeah. And
I'm not in a hurry. Right now you're in a pennant race. I don't think his mind is saying how come they haven't approached us about I just don't think it's the right time. I could see it being the right time next spring, possibly, or the spring after that when he's really into his arbitration.
And look, Michael Elias said they have payroll flexibility from here moving forward. So maybe it's one of those things where that he spends money on him in the offseason. It remains to be seen. I guess
that payroll flexibility can get out of hand. You got a lot of people now you're starting to see that are going to be, deserving of a lot more money, and that starts to happen. And it, all of a sudden your payroll was like $50 million, and now it's $150 million. I'm not saying you got to count your chickens real carefully, but I just, that's not a high priority for me, and I don't think it is with Mike Elias.
No, I totally get the thinking on that. And then the final thing I want to ask you is, we heard this past week that Gunnar Henderson has been getting work over at first base. He started 2 of the last 3 games for the Tides at first base. Look, Richie Martin came up with Taron Vavra going on the paternity list. To me, having Gunnar play some first base kind of puts the writing on the wall that when it's time to call him up, they're going to call him up, and that Nevin will be the guy who's optioned back down to AAA. And if you come up with less than 45 days left in the Major League season, you maintain rookie status going into the next season. Tomorrow's game is 45 days. They don't have a game on Monday. Do you think there's a good possibility the Orioles could be calling up Gunnar Henderson as early as Tuesday to make his Major League debut?
I don't have any great insight into that. You've explained what the parameters of it are, and I think you might be onto something. Clearly, this speaks highly of the fact that Gunnar is not just going to come up and be handed shortstop.
Right.
That now Mateo last 35. I looked at his numbers the last 35 games. He's hit over 300. And he's got like 5 home runs. Then he hit another home run after I looked it up. I think he is the shortstop on this team.
I do too.
Until proven otherwise. And Urias is an inexpensive and valuable piece right now. And I agree with you, Tyler Nevin. I'm not saying he's been given a great chance, but he's played enough that he needed to show more than he has.
Right.
So he would clearly be the guy that would go down. In fact, I got to the ballpark yesterday. I had to meet somebody who was interviewing me for this very interesting project he's working on. It's about memories of people's first game they ever saw. He's a New York writer. And so I got to Hyde's press conference, which I usually don't get to before the game. And Hyde was talking about having brought somebody up, and I thought it was Henderson, and my mind was going, I guess they sent Nevin down. And it turned out to be Stowers and more complicated, with the 3 moves up and the 3 moves down. But Gunnar, it sure looks like, and maybe with Gunnar, it's even more of what I just said about Mike Elias looking at what the Braves have done with their 2 young players, who both came from Double-A. And, although Gunnar's at Triple-A, he's younger than those 2 guys, I think. Youngest player in
AAA by 9 months currently.
Yeah.
So
that's significant. That is really significant.
It really is. And Stan, for sure, it's going to be an interesting final 6 weeks to this season. I think we're all excited to see what's going to happen and who comes up to maybe help the Orioles make this final playoff push. We know you have multiple shows. Very hardworking man here for Press Box. What do you have coming up for us on Monday, Stan?
Monday night, Ross Grimsley has reached out to Scott McGregor, former Oriole left-handed pitcher. We'll have Scott McGregor on at 6 o'clock.
All right, excellent, Stan. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next week.
Enjoy the
games.
Okay, look forward to it. Yep, I'll be out there in Boot Pal Bobblehead Day today.
Nice. I wish I could be there.
Boot will be out of his grill at about 2:30 today for about an hour, greeting fans. He's really missed the interaction with his fans and supporters. All right?
That'll be nice. Thank you so much, Sam. We'll talk to you next week.
Guys, have a great weekend. Okay. See you, Zach. Bye.
And that was Stan the Fan, Charles. It was 2 great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. Stan had a very busy week this week. He and Ross chatted with Ken Guthrie, the Orioles scout directly responsible for Jackson Holiday. He and Gary caught up with Maryland football coach Mike Loxley. And he also previewed the Maryland Cycling Classic with KOM Sports Marketing Steve Brunner. Find these shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Stan and Ross are back on Monday with another great show as they are speaking with Scott McGregor, former Orioles left-handed ace, at 6 p.m., so you'll want to tune in for that. We're going to move right into sounding off with Zach Goodman. Now, look, this is all Zach today. I read his notes for this, and I have no idea who these two guys are. So
that's why I'm doing this.
This is all Zach.
So I'm pretty big on prospects. I love the minor leagues, and I'm interested in guys that I think deserve more recognition than they get. And these two guys that I'm going to talk about are recognized. I'll put that out there. I just think they deserve a little more, and I think they're really exciting, and I think they're going to be superstars in this league at some point. So it's kind of prediction time for me. But MLB Pipeline, they recently released their new updated Top 100, as has Baseball America and all the other ones, but we're going to go off Pipeline's rankings just for this current segment. So at number 35, the first guy I want to talk about here is the Nationals outfielder James Wood. He was drafted by the Padres in the second round. He's actually, both of these guys are Maryland natives. For whatever reason, that just happened to be. But James Wood actually was drafted from IMG Academy down in Florida. That's where he played his high school baseball. But this guy is an absolute possible five-tool monster. This is one of the guys who the Nationals, got for Juan Soto. It's one of the guys that they went out and got. And the power's off the charts. This is plus power, plus speed. You don't see too many guys who have both of those things. And then you look at the numbers down in the minor leagues right now, and he's basically tearing it. He's basically tearing it up. This is one of the guys that I think is going to make waves. I think he's going to be in the top 10 prospects next year because you look at the numbers, you look at the raw arm strength, you look at the speed, the power. This guy's a five-tool player.
What's his name again?
James Wood.
James Wood.
From IMG Academy, again, a high school guy, second round for the Padres a few years ago, and now a national.
And you say he's ranked 35th in the top 100?
35th according to Pipeline, right.
Okay.
And then the other guy I want to talk about is another Maryland native, actually Severna Park native, and drafted from a high
Mark
school.
Teixeira?
Well, not Mark Teixeira, but Jackson Merrill. He's ranked at number 88, another Padres draft pick. I don't know why I picked these two guys out. I've always really liked these two, but they happen to be both Padres draft picks that are Maryland natives. Clearly, they're doing something right over here. This is another guy. Possible five-tool talent, tearing it up in A-ball right now. You look at I think he's batting around 328 in A-ball. He's put up 11 home runs this year. The power's coming. This is a guy who's really growing into his body. Possible defensive star as well. Jackson Merrill's another guy who I think next year we're going to be talking about as one of the best prospects in baseball because not only the numbers are there but the tools are there. Two guys to really look out for, and I think James Wood, especially being right down the Beltway in Washington, is going to be a guy we're going to be hearing a lot about. And I really, if I had to put a comparison to James Wood, I think he could be like an Aaron Judge light. I think that guy's that good.
How old are these guys?
Well, they're both high school draft picks. Jackson Merrill's 19 now, and I believe James Wood's now 20.
Okay.
So they're still young.
And they're both playing in A-ball?
Both playing in A-ball at the moment.
High A or low A?
For Merrill, he's in low A. I believe James Wood is in high A at the moment. But they both got a long way to go. This is not going to be in the majors next year, probably even the year after. But James Wood is especially someone who I think realistically could be in the majors sooner rather than later and be helping the Nationals because they are a rebuilding team. They have room to grow. And he's not going to be Juan Soto. I don't want to say that, but he's certainly a really good piece they got back in that trade, and I really think he's going to be a star.
Yeah, and look, I think when I was looking at your notes, your gripe was that these guys should be probably
be ranked a little higher, be paid attention to. Yeah.
The thing with that is they're 19 and they're 20 years old.
Yeah, sure.
And they're tearing the cover off the ball in A-ball, right? So kind of if you're 19, 20 years old and you're a top 100 prospect, you should be tearing the cover off the ball in A-ball. If they were doing this in AA or AAA, man, they're probably top 20 prospects.
Yeah. And they could be next year.
Because they're so young and because they're still only in A-ball, that's why that's probably why. And 35, ranked number 35 for a guy who's in A-ball,
higher.
It is. I think that's a high ranking for somebody who's 19, 20 years old and playing in A-ball. I mean, now you look at Jackson Holliday, who's the first overall draft pick for the Orioles this year, and he's ranked 14. But that just shows how special a talent they think he really is.
Did you get a chance to check out the new Pipeline list? Was there anything you thought was kind of egregious, or was there anything that stood out to you about that list?
The Pipeline list, not so much.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was Keith Law or Kylie McDaniel or if it was Baseball. One of these lists had Colton Cowser ranked 97th.
Yeah, that's really low.
And to me, everything he's done at Double-A in his first full pro season, he has been a revelation at Double-A. Look, he struggled a little bit there for a while at High A, but he gets a promotion to Double-A, and when I say struggled, he was still hitting like 258, right? At High A, he gets a promotion to Double-A, which is where usually your best prospects are, and he's cooled off a little bit, but he's batting over 320. Right. The power's there. He's playing good defense. To have him ranked 97th on a top 100 list, to me, was a little egregious. I felt like that. Okay. Seeing him at number 43 on the MLB Pipeline Top 100, that seems about right for him. And if he continues to hit the way he's hitting the rest of the year, and if he and honestly, he could be making his way up to AAA after this weekend to fill the spot left by Stowers. I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
I wouldn't be either.
I think that he could come into next year maybe a top 30 prospect.
Sure.
And honestly, I think Colton Cowser is a guy who might factor into the Orioles' plans as early as the first half of next year.
Oh, I think so too. I think Colton Cowser is special. And you look at what the Orioles have done with Adley Rutschman and Terrin Vavra and how they've really tried to include them, recently in the second half of the season, because of their plate discipline is two of the things that makes them, or really the reason that makes them such, impactful and important players for the Orioles. These guys get on base at 360, 370 clips. That's what I think Colton Cowser is going to do. He's going to be an advanced approach. He's going to walk a lot. He's going to give you good at-bats night in, night out. I think that's really what's important about him.
Yeah, and that's something that we've seen from this regime with the guys that you're drafting. They're drafting the
high on base guys.
The high on base, low strikeout, high batting average guys. That's who they're drafting, and you're starting to see it. And Vavra wasn't drafted by the Orioles, but they traded for him specifically because of his hitting and on-base capabilities. Mm-hmm. And you're starting to see these guys graduate to the major leagues. Adley Rutschman has the highest on-base percentage in baseball since the All-Star break. Terrin Vavra is getting on base at a 370 clip right now, despite the bat slowing down a little bit. Kyle Stowers is a guy who gets on base at a 370 clip, despite all the strikeouts. You know what I mean? So you're starting to see these guys graduate to the big league level, and it's only going to get better from here. And that's probably the most exciting thing, is that you see guys who have much more professional bats making their way to the big league roster. Very nice, Zach. When I first read that last night, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to be any part of this. But I was also dead tired, and my brain's functioning. It doesn't seem like it, but my brain's functioning a little bit better.
That's good. That's good.
Today. All right, we got to catch our first break. We've done a lot of reads already, so we'll wait to do another read till after the break. When we come back in, Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun will join us. It is the Batter Round.
Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with their popular Korean No. 2 sauce. And try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or back by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely, thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
All right, we are back here on the Bat Around. We are through the first hour. The first hour of today's show was brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. You can come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook in the NFL this season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. It is the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast where you can take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Is it ringing at all? All right, did you mute Stan's mic when we got him off the phone? Okay. We're having a hard time getting in contact here with Nathan Ruiz, who's supposed to join us here. Zach, do me a favor. Call my phone. And while he does that, I do want to talk a little bit about Jackson Holliday, who's off to a tremendous start for the Florida Complex League and his pro career gets off the ground. He hit a homer yesterday. He also had a double. Hang on one second. So I just got a text from Nathan Ruiz asking if we were the 281 number, 2801 number. So maybe give him another call. But Jackson Holliday, a homer and a double yesterday. His first career home run. He also had a walk, stealing a few bases down there. The important thing here, he has a hit in every game to this point in his professional career. He has 5 walks and just 1 strikeout to start his professional career. Now, this is a guy who was drafted 1-1 overall by the Orioles just last month. Tremendous start for him. He said that he expects to be in the big leagues in 2 years. He's off to the start that would make you think that could be a possibility. Look, the Florida Complex League ends on Tuesday the 23rd, so we may be looking at him going to Delmarva or even to Aberdeen for his next stint. But yeah, a tremendous start for Jackson Holliday. You get nervous, right, when you draft a high school guy 1-1 overall, and then you look at him and he's got that baby face, right? It looked like they drafted a 14-year-old kid. But the bat plays, he's off to a tremendous start, and we're excited to see how his career progresses from here as, again, the thing I'm most impressed about, he's getting the hits. You expect him to get the hits if they're that kind of a talent. The 5 walks to just 1 strikeout in his first taste of pro ball really says to me that this is a kid who could have a really, and should, being a 1-1 overall pick, might have a very bright future ahead of him. So kudos to Jackson Holliday for his performance to start his professional career. With that in mind, we now move to Nathan Ruiz of the Baltimore Sun, who is live with us here on the Bat Around. Good morning, Nathan. How are you today?
Doing well, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing very well. First and foremost, I saw that you just got engaged. Congratulations to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate you joining the show for us today. Been trying to get you for a while, so happy to finally have you back on the Bat Around here. Now, I was just talking about Jackson Holliday, and he is off to a tremendous start in his pro career. The number that stood out to me, 5 walks to just the 1 strikeout. We know that the Florida Complex League ends on Tuesday. Are we going to see him move to Delmarva or Aberdeen, or is it kind of just they send him back to Sarasota and he continues to get his work in, and then that's kind of it for pro ball for this year?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything definitively as far as that goes. I don't think it'd be a surprise if they did decide to do do the latter, just given, we're talking about an 18-year-old kid, first season of pro ball. It is possible that they bump him up. You look back at what it's hard because there's not necessarily a clean comp for him, I guess, with Gunnar, 2 years ago in 19 or 3 years ago now. They didn't, rush him up to Delmarva, up to an affiliate. They kind of just let him finish out the year in Florida. So I would assume that's maybe the best comparison for it. Obviously, that circumstance is a little different even because the draft was in June then and not July. Obviously, Jackson got kind of a rough go of it because he didn't, he played his last game of his senior season in May and then wasn't back on the field until, this month. So, I think they're just going to, they're going to give him the best opportunity to succeed in whatever that is. And obviously they've already rushed up a lot of those college guys who they got up to Delmarva, but I think Jackson's probably in a little bit different circumstance.
Yeah, and that would seem to be the move that makes sense. Now, you mentioned Gunnar Henderson, and he's been getting work at first base this past week down in Norfolk. He's made starts there in 2 of the last 3 games. Should we be reading the tea leaves here that maybe he could be the next guy called up? Because they don't really have somebody else to play first base other than Tyler Nevin. Maybe he's the next guy called up and he can help this team make a playoff push.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to add, some versatility to him. I think obviously long-term, he's going to be on the left side of the infield in some fashion, whether that be as a above-average shortstop or as a plus third baseman. He's going to end up on the left side. I think it's just something where they're trying to create an opportunity for him. You mentioned Tyler Nevin, obviously has been up a lot of the year, but really hasn't, unfortunately for him, done a whole lot with his opportunities. So we've seen, Taron Vavra get some work at first base. Anthony Santander get some work around first base. Adley Rutschman did a little bit of on-the-bag work. I didn't really see him take any ground balls at all. He's kind of just, he was just doing some work over there. So I think those options exist if they need to, and they're just trying to create more flexibility. Ryan Mountcastle isn't going to play first base every day. It's just modern baseball. He's going to get some rest days. He's going to DH some. And so I think they're just trying to find another option. Obviously, they had one in Trey Mancini and traded him away. But I think that they're, trying to find another option. And if being able to play first base is what allows Gunnar to come up, then whatever works. If that's what's going to get his bat in lineup is the ability to fill in at third, fill in at short, play some first base. If that's what's going to do it, then that's what he's doing. Obviously it's unfortunate that it feels like they're adding another box for him to check before a call up. And that is what it is, but it's just making sure that when he comes up, they're going to want him to play every day and just trying to create the opportunity for him to do that.
Now, how impressive is it for the Orioles to graduate the number 1 prospect in baseball this year in Adley Rutschman, only to have their own farmhand become the next number 1 overall prospect in baseball, and now he might make it to the bigs in the same season? That's something I don't know if that's ever happened.
Yeah, it's not like the easiest thing to check, but if you look at how Baseball America reports their prospect standings, they consider their official list to be the off-season list. So a mid-season list like this one that has Gunnar at number 1 doesn't necessarily apply, but never on an off-season list have 2 players from the same team, same draft class, both been the number 1 overall prospect. And so Adley was number 1 on last year's off-season list. If Gunnar's probably going to retain rookie eligibility, so he'll have the chance to be number 1 on this off-season list. So that would be the first time that ever happened. Obviously, those are the first 2 picks under Michael Elias in that 2019 draft, and then Kyle Stowers was the 3rd pick in that group. So obviously a really, really impressive top of that group. You've got Joey Ortiz was in that group as well. It's just you got Maverick Hanley. There's a lot of guys who have had a lot of success from that initial draft class, and so I think it really speaks to what the Orioles have targeted in those drafts, how they're developing them after they arrive in the system. Obviously, we've seen success that a guy in 2020 and Jordan Westberg has had, and Hudson Haskin, another 2020 guy, and Colton Cowser from 2021, and Connor Norby really turned it up once they got the Bowie. And so I think there's just a lot of really talented pieces in play here, and that bodes well for their future, whether they keep all those guys or whether they move some of them for other assets.
And you mentioned Kyle Stowers, and he was the Orioles' 3rd pick in that same draft as Adley and Gunnar Henderson. He was called up yesterday. I can't remember if it was you or if it was Zach Silver that tweeted out it's his re-debut, which I thought was pretty brilliant because he made that debut in Toronto, but it was out of necessity because of an unvaccinated player, and he wasn't added to the 40-man. So he makes his Orioles home debut last night. Was this weekend kind of in the plans for a while now, or was it more of a move in reaction to how bad the offense had been to that point for the past week?
Yeah, first off, the re-debut credit on that goes to Zach.
Okay.
I did like how Kyle put it personally of saying, in Toronto, that was my debut. but this feels like the call-up. So I liked both phrasings of that. But, I think with Kyle, the Orioles emphasize making sure prospects graduate AAA. And he was a guy who it seemed like he had done that for a while. And obviously there were still areas they felt like he needed to grow in. I'm sure it's a combined aspect. They wouldn't have promoted a guy unless they felt he was ready for the big leagues.
Sure.
But also their offense has scuffled of late. You're adding another guy to the mix who has some pop. Obviously, he comes up and is plugged right into the fifth spot in the lineup. Adley Rutschman in his major league debut, and again, I know it was Stowers' re-debut as discussed, but Adley hit sixth in his first major league game, and so it speaks to the impact they think Kyle's going to have, the impact they think he can have. We saw it last night with a couple singles, a bit of a base running aggressiveness, played a solid right field. So he's a guy who's going to get a lot of action, as Brandon Hyde said, and I do think a part of it is them wanting to make a push. At the same time, they still have an open 40-man spot. They sent down Taron Vavra. Not sent down, excuse me. They put him on the paternity list. They had an opening on the roster for another infielder, and they called up Richie Martin. They very easily could have selected Gunnar Henderson's contract as well and really push for this thing. And I think, again, like we mentioned before, with wanting to add first base to his toolbox, that is something that remains a possibility. They still only have 39 players on their 40-man roster, so it'd be pretty flexible for them to make a move of that sort in the near future. But for right now, they added Kyle, and it seemed, at least for a night, that it gave them quite the jolt.
Now, do you think that move, because I noticed that too, that they could have called up somebody else to add, like a Gunnar Henderson, but you have to have, if you're a prospect and you get called up in the last 45 days of the regular season, you maintain that rookie eligibility. Now, also, you can't accrue more than 130 at-bats. Tomorrow is 45 days, and then the Orioles have the off day on Monday. Do you think that we could see a call-up of Gunnar as soon as Tuesday for that next series?
I mean, I frankly don't know that the Orioles really care all that much about the rookie eligibility aspect. If they're concerned about anything in all this, it's the service time aspect. I've seen a few other people reference the rookie eligibility aspect. That's for the player. That's for, I guess you could argue they would like to have the ability for him to be the number one prospect in baseball again this offseason, but I don't think they're overly concerned with that external stuff. Once you get past the 2 weeks into the season for a year of service time and, the couple months into the season for Super 2 status, I think your focus becomes when's he ready for the majors? I don't think they necessarily need to concern themselves with that. I think the factor becomes, do we call him up now and, get the clock running, or do we do what was maybe thought they might do with Adley pre-injury of keeping him down for a couple weeks into next season? And obviously I think, as someone who would have to write off-season stories again about service time and keeping players down and all that stuff, I would prefer that he comes up. I think it would add some excitement. I think it would add some energy. I think it would show that they're going for it more than any other move they could possibly make. But if they feel like, he has things he needs to work on, they're going to prioritize those. And we're seeing that with him getting some work at first base. And so if they feel like, hey, he can be our backup third baseman, backup first baseman, be our everyday third baseman, get some work at shortstop too, then if he checks the boxes that they're looking for, and there's the same thing with Adley Rutschman, and it's not necessarily always known what those boxes are, but the second that Adley caught 3 straight games, he got an off day, and then he was at Camden Yards. And so I don't know if there's, Gunnar plays 4 or 5 games at first base. That's just me throwing something out. I don't have inside information on that. It's completely speculative, but if they have a box they want to check with Gunnar in terms of, his capabilities at first base, if he checks that box and that's what they're waiting on, then we'll see him. But until then, I don't know that the rookie eligibility is a factor outside of wanting to give the kid the opportunity to win Rookie of the Year next year.
Couple more minutes here on the bat around with Nathan Ruiz of the Baltimore Sun. Now, you mentioned Kyle Stowers and the impact he had batting fifth. He laces the 2 singles over 100 miles an hour exit velocity last night. He comes into the lineup, bats fifth, and the Orioles go out and score 15 runs and have 11 extra base hits. That's a pretty big impact, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny that, who knows how much influence he had on that.
Sure.
Obviously, his presence deepens the lineup. I had a running joke going early in the game that every inning he took an at bat, they scored at least 3 runs, and that ended, I think, in the 7th inning. So through 6 innings, they didn't score in 2 of those innings, but in the other 4, they scored at least 3 runs, and he took an at bat in all of those. So obviously some causation correlation argument to be made there, but he's a guy who's going to deepen the lineup as a left-handed power bat. Brandon Hyde's been talking all season. We heard it earlier this month with Brett Phillips and Rougned Odor about wanting to get lefties in the lineup, and obviously Stowers bats left-handed and Gunnar Henderson bats left-handed, and I think you can connect some dots there, so to speak, but they have a lot of right-handed starters lined up to face them over the next couple of weeks. And so obviously we saw him sit Kyle Stowers in Toronto when they were facing lefties. And I think that that might continue to be the case, even though Stowers had really good numbers in the minors against lefties. And so they're just going to prioritize the matchups that they think work best. We'll see it eventually, where whenever Taron Vavra comes back, that they have a lineup with Adley and Taron and Kyle, and it's just, 3 of their top position player prospects or top young hitters. Adley's graduated from prospect status, but it's just going to be a lineup that's a little bit more well-formed, a little more future-focused, and I think that should be exciting for all Orioles fans.
And then final question, I really do appreciate you, Nathan, taking some time for us on a busy day with the Orioles having a day game today. Grayson Rodriguez, when he had the lat injury back in June, I thought he was done for the year. I didn't think he was going to pitch at all. But now it seems like Mike Elias has said that he's going to pitch off a game mound at some point again this season. He seems inclined to say that he's going to pitch again this year. If Grayson Rodriguez does pitch again this year, is it going to be for the Orioles? And if so, will they add him to the 40-man before September so that he could be available for the postseason should they make it?
Yeah, I think that expecting to, nail anything down on Grayson is tough to say.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to necessarily, we see what they're doing with DL now, using him as a reliever, obviously to manage his innings somewhat down this final stretch while also making him, a late season weapon for them. I don't know that we'll necessarily see a similar usage out of Grayson. I think they continue to see him as a starter. Obviously, him getting shut down in the manner he did affected his innings for the year. I think the priority is just going to be getting him healthy, less so in the same manner of like making sure dudes graduate and making sure they're ready for the big leagues. And obviously, I think if he had gotten through that last start healthy, it was not going to be long before he was up in the majors, unfortunately. So I think the priority is just making sure he's healthy before prioritizing, adding him. Obviously, we've seen some slip-ups of late, but this pitching staff has been really solid all season long. And so I think there's going to be a lot of riding what they've got, and obviously they'll expand the roster by a couple guys in September and figure it out from there. And I'm sure DL will be in consideration for one of those spots. But as far as Grayson goes, I imagine the priority is getting him healthy and seeing where things go from there.
I think that would probably be the correct approach. Nathan, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule for us today. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we'll talk to you here down the line.
Yeah, sounds great, Paul. Thanks so much.
Take care. And that was Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun, taking some time out of his busy schedule to join us here on the Batter Round. I've been trying to get Nathan for months, and he's just always been so busy. So I'm glad he could squeeze us in there. We're going to catch our second break. When we come back, the payoff pitch around the league and Orioles banter. That and more next on the Batter Round. Just want to remind you that sports betting has come to Maryland, and we are ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook's general manager Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all the info you need and offer you a few winners. So come win money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. You can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio and watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. Next on the Bat Around, Orioles banter and more.
Visit Howard County presents the 2022 Major League Quidditch Championship, a Harry Potter-inspired, real-life, full-contact, mixed-gender, 12-team Quidditch tournament happening at Troy Park in Elkridge, August 20th through the 22nd. For tickets and more information, go to visithowardcounty.com. Maryland, be open for it.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also, inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State. And we give you everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Demos, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds, Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. Welcome back to the Bat Around here on a hot but beautiful Saturday morning. It is time now for the payoff pitch around the league. Adley Rutschman, Anthony Santander, and Ryan Mountcastle went 8 for 15 with 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 9 RBI as the Orioles won a slugfest with Boston 15-10. Kevin Gausman spun 7 shutout innings. It was backed by Teoscar Hernandez 2-run homer to lead the Blue Jays over the reeling Yankees 4-0. It was the Yankees' 14th loss in their last 18 games and now hold just an 8-game advantage over the Blue Jays. It took 10 innings, but the Royals got a sac fly from Michael Massey in extras to stop Tampa Bay 3-2. Bobby Witt Jr. homered in the victory. The Twins got solo home runs from Luis Ariz and Jose Miranda, and former Oriole Dylan Bundy allowed 1 run over 5 in the third innings to pick up the victory over the lifeless Rangers 2-1. Former Oriole Jorge Lopez closed things out for his 22nd save. Eugenio Suarez mashed 2 home runs and drove in 5 as the Mariners continued to take advantage of arguably baseball's easiest second-half schedule, blowing out the AL worst Athletics 10-2. I love saying his name. It's so fun to say his name. Eugenio Suarez. Jose Ramirez homered, but the real star was Tristan McKenzie, who struck out 14 White Sox batters over 7 innings of 2-run ball in Cleveland's 5-2 win over the Southsiders. In a matinee on the north side, it was a back-and-forth affair between the Cubs and Brewers. It was ultimately decided when Christopher Morel hit a 2-run shot in the home half of the 6th to put the Cubs up 8-7, a score that would hold up the rest of the way. Did you see any of that game yesterday?
I did not, no.
It was ridiculous, man. Every time, it was legitimately from like innings 2 through 6, it was Cubs take the lead. Brewers take the lead.
Wow.
Cubs take the lead.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Fun.
It was awesome. Ben Gamble had 3 hits. Kevin Newman drove in a pair, and Bryce Wilson tossed 7 solid innings to push Pittsburgh past Cincy 5 to my notes changed it to Cindy. Past Cincy 5-4. Pete Alonso connected on his 30th home run and joined David Wright as the only 2 Mets players with multiple 100 RBI seasons in their first 4 years, as the Mets took care of the Phillies 7-2. The Angels' Jared Walsh launched his 15th home run, a solo shot, which proved to be enough as Patrick Sandoval went the distance, striking out 9 in a complete game, 1-0 shutout of the Tigers. Mike Trout went 1 for 4 in his first game since July 12th. Austin Riley and Dansby Swanson combined for 5 hits and 5 RBI to back Kyle Wright's 6 solid innings in a brave 6-2 win over the Astros. Rookie Elihuris Montero homered twice and drove in 5 for the Rockies as they took care of the fading Giants 7-4. Alex Wood allowed a season-high 7 runs on a season-high 3 home runs in the loss. The Nationals bullpen allowed just 2 base runners and struck out 6 in 4 2/3 innings of relief. And 27-year-old rookie Alex Call connected for his first career home run, a 2-run shot in a 3-run ninth to put the final nail in the coffin as the Nationals defeated the Padres 6-3. San Diego is now just 6-11 since acquiring Juan Soto, Josh Bell, and Josh Hader. Hader has a 16.20 ERA, 3.00 WHIP, and 385 batting average allowed since joining the Padres. Paul Goldschmidt homered and Nolan Arenado smacked 3 doubles, the duo combining to go 7 for 9 with 4 RBIs in the Cardinals' 5-1 victory over Arizona. Paul Goldschmidt's got to be the front runner for MVP.
So good right now.
336 batting average, 30 homers, 90. He's got to be the MVP.
He's got to be.
Mookie Betts finished a homer shy of the cycle, and the Dodgers got a run in the 7th and another in the 8th to fend off the Marlins 2-1. Tyler Anderson allowed 1 run over 7 innings for the Dodgers, but did not factor in the decision. Zach, what you got for us on tap today?
Got some good games. Mets have a doubleheader today with the Phillies. They will play their first one at 105. Trevor Williams has had a good year against Zach Wheeler, arguably the Phillies' ace today, 105 in Philly. Blue Jays and Yankees. Mitchell White, the former Dodger, goes up against the former Astro Garrett Cole, 105 at Yankee Stadium. Angels at Tigers. Reed Detmers, the rookie, takes on Tyler Alexander, the lefty, 110 at Comerica Park. Brewers and Cubs. Freddie Peralta. I'm a huge Freddie Peralta fan. Against Marcus Stroman and his Chicago Cubs, 220 at Wrigley Field. The Red Sox and Michael Wacha against Kyle Bradish and the Baltimore Orioles, 405 here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Royals at Rays. Chris Bubich versus Drew Rasmussen. Drew Rasmussen took almost a no-hitter for a very long time against the Orioles into that 9th inning. 410. Perfect game it was. 410 at Tropicana Field. Johnny Cueto is having a resurgence this year. He'll start for the Chicago White Sox against the Cleveland Guardians, 610 at Progressive Field. Shane Bieber, who's had a really decent year, coming back and making another start here for the Guardians. Reds at Pirates. Justin Dunn versus Tyler Beede, 7:05 at PNC Park. Probably not one you're going to watch there. It's not a very good game, Reds at Pirates. Texas Rangers at Minnesota Twins, 7:10 at Target Field. Glenn Otto versus Chris Archer at Target Field. Second game of that doubleheader with the Mets and the Phillies. David Peterson takes on Bailey Falter, 7:15 there in Philly. Mariners at Athletics. Logan Gilbert versus James Caparillan. That's a hard name to say. 7:15 at the O.co. Astros at Braves. Christian Javier, one of the better pitchers in the American League this year, against Spencer Strider, one of the better pitchers in the National League this year. 7:15 in Atlanta at Truist Park. Giants at Rockies. Alex Cobb, the former Oriole, takes on Ryan Feltner, the Colorado Rocky starting pitcher, 8:10 at Coors Field. Cardinals at D-backs. Dakota Hudson versus Madison Bumgarner, 8:10 at Chase Field. Nationals, they'll start Josiah Gray, who they got for the Dodgers last year, against Joe Musgrove and his San Diego Padres, 8:40 in San Diego. Marlins at Dodgers. Marlins, they will start Braxton Garrett. The Dodgers do not know who they have going tonight yet at 9:10 at Dodger Stadium. That's all we have. Not too many games on tap, but the Mets and Philly is always a fun one, so they play 2 today. Should be a good slate of games.
Orioles got the 4:05 game against the Red Sox today. I didn't realize Michael Wacha was having such a good year.
He's having a really good year.
He was really good in St. Louis. And then I think he went to Tampa Bay after that, and he wasn't great for them.
I think you're right, yeah.
But he's having a really like a 2.44 ERA.
How about the year Johnny Cueto's having?
Well, and that's I was looking at my phone. I was trying to figure out what you had said that made me want to go look something up, and I forgot it that quickly. And it's Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, he's been unreal.
He's been incredible. Now I don't know that he ever had a huge fall off. I think he was just one of those guys that people like. I mean, yeah, he had an above 5 ERA in 2019 and 2020, but last year in 22 and 21 starts, a 4.08 ERA. I mean,
this year's in the 2s though, if I'm correct.
He's at 2.78 in 17 games, 16 starts.
Really good.
He's always been really good. I mean, sometimes you have those bad seasons. I remember in 1996, Mike Mussina won 19 games, but his ERA was like 4.85.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was arguably his worst year. But he won 19 games because he would have scored almost 1,000 runs that year. Yeah. Like guys have Randy Johnson pitched to a 5 ERA in New York. Like guys have bad years.
By the way, speaking of that Randy Johnson, I guess analogy you made before, Nolan Ryan's another guy who,
I thought about him too.
In the late '60s, was a reliever for the Mets before ending up as Houston's one of the great starters of all time. So we're not saying DL Hall is going to become one of those guys. He's not Randy Johnson or Nolan Ryan, but it just goes to show that it can happen.
If you don't give him the opportunity to start and figure out, he will never
have the chance,
become one of those guys. And that's the point. That's the overall point that I was trying to make. Not that he will be one of those guys and that you can compare him to those guys, but he never has a chance to become that.
Right.
And this is a guy who has a 4-pitch mix from the left side and throws 100 miles an hour. That's a special arm.
It is.
That is a special arm. It's not like he's a Roldis Chapman who he has like a changeup and a fastball. You know what I mean? Or Mariano Rivera where he has 1 pitch. He has a 4-pitch mix. He can throw all of them just because he doesn't do it very often. Doesn't mean he can't do it. He can throw all 4 pitches for strikes.
Yeah.
And he throws 100 miles an hour from the left side. This is a guy who needs to be given every opportunity to flourish. And look, we've seen what the Orioles have done with Spencer Watkins and Austin Voth and 5 waiver claims in the bullpen.
Right.
You really think that that big league pitching staff that's turned these guys' careers around can't do that for DL Hall?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think you look at Chris Holt and the impact he's made. I don't know if there's a guy or a coach specifically in this organization who's made a bigger impact than Chris Holt. I mean, again, Austin Voth, go look at his numbers in Washington. They're terrible. I mean, he was never good in Washington.
He had one season where he made like 9 starts and pitched like a 323 year.
Not a huge sample size, though, if I remember correctly. And then you look at Perez and another guy who's never been good throughout his career. And it's just he's turning these guys who are relatively, I describe them as no-names for the most part, into really solid pitchers for the Orioles. And that's been the biggest thing. I mean, the Orioles struggled from 2012 to 2016, even though they won the most games in the American League in that span, they struggled with starting pitching, really, the whole time. They had a good bullpen. They always did. I mean,
2014, their starting staff pitched to a 3.61 ERA.
It did,
and that's why they won 96 games.
Right. You're right. But there were never really consistent stretches where the Orioles pitched very well in that starting rotation. The bullpen was always a lot better.
Yeah. But look, and not to talk about that 5-year stretch, but they did have consistently guys like Wei Yin Chen, and Chris Tillman and Miguel Gonzalez, who went out there and gave them quality innings. But after that, it was Kevin Gossman was up and down, up and down, up and down. Right. Ubaldo Jimenez was never what they paid him to be, and then Bud Norris had the one good year. Yeah. He had the one good year, and that was about it. So, but look, this Orioles, and it brings me to my point that Stan made. And where I was saying, why wouldn't you, like, these guys have done enough and it's late enough in the year that you should be willing to give them that extra inning. And he said, well, they're kind of out over their skis and, you want to trust your bullpen. Well, the bullpen is the exact same thing, all right? You have 5 waiver claims in your bullpen. Well, 4 now, I guess, because Jorge Lopez is gone, right? But you have a bunch of guys who had done nothing.
Right.
In their careers, and now you have one of the best bullpens in baseball.
Right.
These starters have done nothing in their careers, and now they're going out there every 5th day, and they're giving you quality innings.
Yeah.
So why do you trust one, but not trust the other? It's the exact same thing, just smaller amounts of innings from these other guys. You can make that argument, like, okay, well, these guys are outperforming what you expect them to do. The bullpen has too, but the bullpen is overworked.
Right.
So if I'm going to lean one way or the other, I'm going to lean to the guys who are giving me 6 quality innings and say, you know what? Can you give me an extra inning? Can you go out there for the boys and give me an extra inning so that I can rest this bullpen and I can match up better by bringing Dylan Tate in the 8th inning, which is when he really should be pitching, instead of having to use him in the 7th inning because I didn't bring you out and Brian Baker and Joey Crable came in and they couldn't get anybody out.
Right.
Well,
I think there's an element that both of the starting rotation of the bullpen are being overly taxed. And that's what it comes down to when you get to August. I mean, it's August 20th. That's what you expect. These are the dog days of summer. They always call it that because guys are tired. I mean, you look at all of the guys. I think Trey Mancini's talked about it so often that, you just get tired. You get run down, and especially pitchers. I mean, they're throwing so often that I think almost everyone's a little bit out over their skis, if you want to use that analogy at this point, because that's how it gets to be in August. It's just everyone starts to wear down. Everyone starts to be everyone starts to falter. And the thing is I was going to say this before too, is that if you use the bullpen as much as you are, and if you use these starters as much as the Orioles currently are, they're going to falter at some point.
Right.
You're just not. It's never going to be perfect. It's
You
never,
saw it last night with Lyles.
Right. It's never going to be unbelievably consistent because that's just not the way this team is built to be. And again, there are a lot of waiver claims here. There are a lot of guys that were no names elsewhere that they've made into players, and that's credit to the Orioles. But it's not to say that they won't falter at some point. That's inevitable. It's going to happen with anybody. Even Max Scherzer the other night. I was watching the Mets. He gave up 4 runs. It's going to happen. It just does. And that's especially when you get into August, and it's August 20th, and September's right around the corner. This is when you see guys start to really falter. And for me, the playoff teams, the ones that do the best and the ones that go the farthest in October, are the ones that have the most depth and have the guys that don't falter quite as much in the end.
And they have the guys that can dig a little bit deeper.
Right.
Dig a little bit deeper and get that little extra juice out.
Right.
To give you what you need. And that's my whole point is, look, man, you know how taxed your bullpen is.
Yeah.
Ask Austin Voth if he can give you one more.
Exactly.
Let Joey Crable come into a clean inning. Now, and we're going to get into Hyde's decision because what he did with Crable the other day against the Cubs, I was mind blown. I was mind blown by it. But I'm like, if these guys are giving you 6 quality innings, or maybe they've gone, like last night, Jordan Lyles, I get he was at 89 pitches. Give me that extra inning.
Right.
I know you've given up 4 runs and 9 hits. Can you go out there and get me, and we're going to do everything to get you that win if you can just get me 3 more outs. Just get me 3 more outs, right? If he does that game's probably not close, right? Because you're not giving up 5 runs when you bring Keegan Akin into the ballgame and then having to go to another reliever because Keegan Akin was ineffective. And I get that there were the errors, but you had to use 2 different relievers in the 5th inning instead of letting Lyles come back out, who was 30 pitches below or 20 pitches below a season high.
Yeah. I mean, what happened last night, honestly, is concerning. And I was sitting there at the game thinking about it, just going, okay, there's Tate. There's Perez. I mean, it just over and over, these guys are coming in, and I'm thinking, this is taxing. This is not good. I mean, it's a 15-10 win. 10 runs, 95% of the time, will win you a game. 95% of the time.
You gave up 19 hits.
Right. I mean, it combined,
night.
what, 37?
37 hits
from both teams.
Combined.
That can't happen. Again, 10 runs for the Boston Red Sox, that's going to win them like 97% of the games they play if they put up 10 runs. That's concerning to me. The fact that Keegan Akin came in, didn't last. I mean, he lasted somewhat long enough, but I would have liked to seen a lot better, and I would have liked to seen him not give up 5 runs. However, the more concerning thing for me is just that they used so many guys.
Right.
So many guys, and so early, and so quickly.
Right. You bring in Nick Vespi to get out of the inning. He gets out of the inning, but then gives up a run the next inning. Then you go to Dylan Tate in, what was it, in the 7th inning?
I think the 6th. I could be wrong. 6th or 7th.
So Lyles went 4 innings, right? So Keegan Akin came in the 5th.
Yeah.
He couldn't get out of it. Vespi then came in and got out of the inning. So then Vespi pitched that third of an inning and then 2/3 of an inning the next inning, and then you bring in Tate, and then Tate goes 2/3 of goes a full inning, but it was into the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Perez.
I would never have taken Tate out. He was in total control.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why are you using why would you not get, especially you just scored 6 runs the last 2 innings. You were up 10-4. Give Jordan Lyles the opportunity to go get a win in this game.
Yeah,
and rest your bullpen, even if it's just a little bit. Even if you get just that one extra inning, maybe now you don't need to use Keegan Akin last night. Maybe you can go straight to Nick Vespi in the 6th inning. Maybe you can go straight to, I don't know. But the fact is, instead of giving Lyles, who, again, only at 89 pitches, and I get that he's thrown a lot of innings, but you brought him in here to do this, right? Why not let him go out and at least start that 5th inning? If he starts getting in trouble, you can pull him. But give him the opportunity. Yeah. What I'm asking for is protect your bullpen and ask your starting rotation to give you a little bit more.
And the thing is, Jordan Lyles a vet. He's a guy who's been around for a really long time. And he's a guy who has faced his fair share of struggles. And we talked about it when they signed him. We said he's going to have a great start there, and then the next start he's going to come out and not have a really good one. And that's kind of been the pattern for him, especially with Texas in the past few years. This, to me, is probably what the Orioles should have expected when they got a guy like this. So let him work through it. I don't really see it as that big of a deal. He had 4 runs, okay.
And 9 hits. But that's a lot of hits.
But again, Brandon Hyde should realize Keegan Akin has not been good in the past 2 months. He hasn't been good at all.
And Hyde, and this is going to bring us into what I want to talk to about. What I wanted to talk about next, which is Hyde's decisions. And Hyde, falls in love with these guys
and the
right?
matchups
matchups, and it turns sour.
Yeah,
and you can. It's like having milk in your refrigerator, and it's delicious. It's great milk, and then the sell by date passes, but it still tastes okay, and then you get like a week later, and now it's starting to form chunks. And it's starting to taste awful.
Well, this is a fun
But
analogy.
you keep drinking it because you're hoping to get a little bit of that taste that you had when it was still good.
Right.
Right? That's what's happening with some of these guys on this roster. You continue to trust them because they did it before and they were good before. Well, now they've gone bad.
Right.
Now they've gone bad, and you've got to do what you've got to do to make sure it doesn't implode. And asking your starter to go an extra inning.
Yeah.
Letting Jordan Lyles come out at 89 pitches to pitch the fifth when he's thrown over 100 pitches like every start. And I get it. If maybe he's probably looking at like, we really want to get him out of the game there because he has just thrown a lot of pitches, and he's thrown a lot of pitches and a lot of innings for us this year. Okay, fine, I get that. But, maybe you should have thought about that earlier this year instead of thinking about it now when you need them to dig deeper.
Right.
You got to ask them, and they got to be willing to and able to do it. So, and then with the Hyde's decision, we're talking about him pulling the starters, I think, a little too early.
Mm-hmm.
He has, first off, Rougned Odor hits better against left-handed pitching than he does against right-handed pitching. But he continues to sit him against, I think, you know how I feel about Odor. Everybody knows how I feel about Odor, right? But if he's going to play, it should be against lefties, right? But he continues to sit him against lefties. Then he leaves him in to face the lefty after Austin Hayes reaches base on the error in the what was it, in the ninth inning the other day. And this is just one of the poor decisions he made in that game. We're going to talk about the other ones too. He had Nevin in the on deck circle, but when Hayes got on base, he left Odor in.
Yeah.
First of all, why are you going? Rougned Odor is here for one reason. And aside on the field, he's here for I guess two reasons. He turns a really good double play, and he has those late inning heroics. He has that clutch gene, right?
And he's a clubhouse influencer,
right? But on field, right? Sure. On the field, he's here for those two things, right? Why are you going to pinch hit Tyler Nevin just to get your matchups? Tyler Nevin hasn't had a big hit since June 11th when he hit that 3-run homer against the Royals.
Tyler Nevin's batting 199 at the moment.
So you're going to pinch hit Tyler Nevin in that situation, he's probably going to strike out, right? Because that's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
Then Hayes gets on first base, so you leave Odor in. So we're all thinking, oh, here comes the big Odor 2-run homer. He doesn't even get the chance to do it because Hyde tells him to bunt. Right. He doesn't get the bunt. He has 2 sacrifice bunts since 2019. He doesn't get the bunt down. In fact, he pops out to the first baseman. So now you've wasted an out, and Hayes is still on first base. Never mind the fact that you shouldn't have been bunting anyway. Because he's only on first base. Because now, even if you get the bunt down and he's on second base, you still have to get that base hit and hope that he scores. And he's not guaranteed to score on a single from second base. So you may need to get 2 more hits. Right? So it was a bad decision to begin with. And people are like, well, if Odor gets the bunt down, Mateo got that hit. Mateo doesn't see the same pitch sequence if he comes up with a runner on second base in that situation. He doesn't see the same pitch sequence. All right? And then on top of that, Odor is here to hit home runs.
Which he doesn't do.
Which he doesn't do, but when he does, they're big home runs. Why in the world are you bunting him?
I agree.
If Hayes led off with a double, I get the move.
Sure.
But he's on first base with nobody out in a 1-run ball game. Why on earth would you ask one of your most clutch players, and I'm not an Odor guy.
No.
But he's been one of your most clutch players this year. Why would you ask him to bunt? He's here for that sole reason to hit that 2-run homer.
I mean, the thing is about this, too, is that we don't really have any idea if Rougned Odor is a good bunter or not. That's not something he's done throughout his career
He laid one down that worked out against the Rangers on 4th of July.
I guess it can work out once in a while. I just don't see that either. I don't get the decision. And I think part of the reason that Brandon Hyde gets a lot of criticism, and I'm not defending him here at all, is that Mike Elias has dealt him this hand. And he's got to
there is that.
And he's got to play the hand. He has to play Rougned Odor at some point. I get that. But to play him 5 days a week, but then to not use him in the situation where he's perhaps most useful, that's where I start to lose any sort of logic there. I'm losing where he's thinking. I'm losing that. And to me, Rougned Odor is a terrible player, and he shouldn't be on this team at all. But if you have to let him hit at any time, it's certainly going to be a time where there's a runner on first base in the 9th inning.
Right.
To me, that's the time where you let the guy swing away. Bunting, he's not that fast. He's not that fast. I mean, this is not a guy who's...
He thinks he's fast.
He does think he's fast, but he's not Cedric Mullins. He's not Brett Phillips. He's not one of those burners that's going to get down the line super quick and beat almost anything out. He would have had to lay down probably a really good bunt there if he had any chance of beating it out. And, of course, your goal is to move Austin Hayes to second, but you never know. He could have turned into a double play, too. There's always a chance of that happening. So I don't support that decision at all. I don't get it. The logic behind it, to me, is not clear.
Well, and that was in the 9th inning, and then Mateo gets the base hit. Hayes reaches second base, and then Mullins has that little looping liner that.
Yeah.
How do neither of those runners realize off the bat that ball is going to be caught?
Yeah.
That ball is going to be caught by the second. As soon as he hit it, I said, "Well, that's a flare out to second base," and then I realized that they're both 25 feet off the bag. They had no shot.
Right.
They had no shot at getting back, and that ends the ball game. Now I look at the 8th inning, and the Orioles have runners on second and third with nobody out, and Santander up, and I'm actually out walking Bruce, and I'm looking at it on my phone, and I go, at worst, he needs to hit a deep fly ball to right field here. What does he do? He hits a deep fly ball to right field. Rutschman scores from third on the sac fly. Mountcastle moves up to third base.
Yep.
You have Mountcastle at third base. You're down 3-2.
Yep.
It's a one-run ball game. You have one out and Ramon Arias up, and the infield is in. And they have Ryan Mountcastle off on contact on a ground ball to third base. And people are like, somebody said to me that Mountcastle had a bad read there, that he needs to not be running on that. If it's a contact play, the coaches... Brandon Hyde has relayed to Tony Mansolino.
That's the sign that's on.
Who has relayed to Mountcastle, you're off on contact. That's what he was told to do. The dumbest thing, because you took yourself right out of that inning.
Yeah.
It's a ground ball to third base. You took yourself right out of that inning. Instead, say that he feels that ground ball and Mountcastle goes back to third, maybe the guy throws the ball away. Maybe the next guy comes up and gets a base hit. Maybe there's a wild pitch. A whole cavalcade of things can happen if you don't have the contact play on. Now, look, the next guy ended up striking out anyway, and they didn't score. I think it was Chirinos, and they didn't score. But you didn't even allow that to be an option. You sent Mountcastle. Now, instead of having a runner on third base and still have an opportunity to score a run here, you've taken yourself out of the inning. Now you have Arias on first base with 2 outs. The contact play, as soon as it happened, I said, why are you running?
Right.
Why are you running? Why would Hyde call for that? Because it was clear that that's what he called. I so disagree with that. If it's Mateo, if it's Mullins, okay, they have an opportunity. The hit, he had to reach to his right and then reset his feet and throw. Reach to his left and then reset his feet and throw. Maybe one of those guys beats out. And the slide by Mountcastle was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
In on his butt, the foot.
He's a horrible, horrible slider.
Yeah. Like, that's one of those things where if you have any shot, you got to go head first and try and swipe the plate. I hated the call there with that particular runner.
with you.
Right. I don't think Mountcastle's as fast as people give him credit for. He's faster. He's fast for his size, but he's not a burner.
No.
By any stretch. Now, the one move that they made that people were questioning is, why would you bunt with Jorge Mateo with runners on first and third and nobody out, right? When Hayes got thrown out at the plate. One, he was safe. He was safe. All replays,
okay.
He was safe. The replay show that his oven mitt was on the plate and then he got tagged in the face. He was safe. He was safe. But that's neither here nor there. I thought to myself, I knew Mateo was coming up and I thought to myself, I'd have him bunt here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what he did. Mateo has to get down a better bunt. He has to get down a better.
And again, that's a guy you bunt.
Right.
Because he's, third fastest player in the league? Rougned Odor is not.
Right.
And that's the guy you bunt.
And people are sitting there and they're saying, why are you giving up and out instead of playing for the big inning?
Yeah.
You're bunting with Mateo, and if it's anybody else, you're not doing that.
Right.
You're bunting with Mateo because if he puts down a good bunt, you score the run, and he's on first base.
The guy who beats out every infield hit.
Right.
I mean, that's what he does. That's what speed is his tool. That's why he's really here. Speed and defense are his number one priorities. So this is a guy who you're going to bunt in every situation you can. If this is a run scoring situation and you think you can get that bunt down, You absolutely do it every day of the year.
And the pitcher made a nice play.
Yeah.
He flipped he in one motion scooped the ground ball with his glove and flipped it to the catcher. And Hayes was still safe, and they called him out. Right? The play wasn't stupid. The play worked, but the umpires got it wrong.
Right.
It was in my mind, it was the right play. It was the right play. It's what I would have done. Now I'm not a manager, but it's what I would have done. It's what I was thinking to do. It just didn't work out for you. I don't have an issue with that, but I do have an issue with Hyde and his matchups. Mm-hmm. That game against the Red Sox, where the Orioles look dead in the water, they get 3 runs there, and that's in that 7th inning, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is a winnable game. And then with 2 outs and a runner on first base, he brings in Nick Vespi to face Eric Hosmer because it's lefty-lefty.
Right.
Eric Hosmer's hitting .320 against left-handed pitching this year. And Vespi is a soft tosser who left one out over the plate that got smashed 400-plus feet off the wall in dead center with 2 outs, so the guy was off on contact. That's when you should be off on contact, by the way. And he scores the run. He has Odor sitting versus lefties. He wants to bring in this guy to face this hitter. Even like the matchup thing, he does it to a fault.
Yeah,
he does it to an absolute fault. He ignores the numbers.
Right.
Look, every manager has their flaws, right? And the way that he has his team playing for him, and the way that they step up for him and they want to play for him, it is remarkable. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Hyde's the guy that I want with his finger on the button when we need it.
I think I've always said this about managers. I don't know how much they can actually realistically affect a win-loss record year to year. I think decisions like that he's made recently have definitely affected what they've been able to do, especially in late innings.
The day game punts.
Right.
Day game punts.
Just puts out an awful lineup with Brett Phillips and McKenna in it. Now Brett Phillips is gone, obviously, but they do a lot of that with Chirinos and McKenna, stuff like that, where you're going to get just less guys on base throughout the game because of that.
They're playing at 4 o'clock today, which Hyde considers a day game after a night game. You know that Rutschman is DHing at best.
Right.
And you know that Nevin's probably playing first base.
Right, and I know. Look,
base.
I know he has to sit Rutschman at some points. I know that's inevitable, but and unfortunately, again, that's the hand that Elias dealt him, is that Chirinos is the backup catcher, and that's who he has to play if Adley Rutschman isn't in the lineup. But man, it's some of these decisions he's made has maybe sort of changed my mind on what I think managers are affecting. Win-loss record throughout the entire year, maybe a little bit more affected than I thought it was. So I do think there's good managers and bad managers. I think he kind of sits in the middle of it. I think he's a great clubhouse guy, and for player development, I think there's probably no one better. But the decisions he's made, especially with pitching, overworking guys, taking starters out too early, getting these matchup moves that I simply don't agree with. It's been a couple weeks of this now that I think everyone's noticing. My dad has been texting me about it constantly, saying, what is Hyde doing here? I mean, even Dylan Tate was taken out last night. He was cruising at the moment, and he takes him out. And it's just things like that where you go, how much of this can you deal with?
And you just reminded me of my point, the other point I wanted to make about Thursday's game, where you bring in Crable to get the final out of the 6th. You bring him, and then you bring him back out for the 7th inning, and he gets 3 outs. And then you bring him back out for the 8th. Mm-hmm. Why do you need to bring him back out for the 8th? Why are you willing to ask Joey Crable, who is a reliever, who at best gives you an up and down twice, right, where he pitches 2 innings. Now you're asking him to go into his 3rd inning of work here.
Yeah.
He's already pitched in 2 different innings. Why are you leaving him in the ballgame? Why are you leaving him in the ballgame? What does he do? He gives up back-to-back home runs. And maybe it wasn't back-to-back, but he gives up 2 home runs, gives up another base hit. Yeah. And you finally pull him, but at that point it's too late. Now you're down 3-0.
Right.
Joey Crable should not have been in that game in the 8th inning. Yeah. He did his job. He got the final out of the 6th. He got all 3 outs pretty quickly in the 7th. He did his job.
That's it.
Go to somebody else.
Right.
Go to somebody else.
That's just overworking a guy at that point. That's overwork.
And you're willing to do that with a guy like Crable.
Yeah.
But you can't let Austin Vothko give you an extra inning?
Or even Jordan Lyles last night.
Right. That's my... Crable should never have set foot on that field after the 7th inning.
Yeah.
And that's on Hyde. And you talk about the lineups, and you're not going to play... You're not going to catch Rutschman every day.
Right.
But I look at it, and I say, All right, it's a day game after a night game. Dude, you need that sweep against the Blue Jays. You need that sweep. Rest him against the Cubs. If the Orioles lose to the Cubs, they lose to the Cubs. Right? Rutschman should be playing in the games that matter. And the games that matter are the games against the Blue Jays and the Rays. Well, it's a 1:30 game after last night's 7 o'clock game, or it's a 4 o'clock game after last night's 7 o'clock game. Ask your players to give you a little more. And it's not and that's not on the players. The players are there. If you ask Adley Rutschman, he'd say, yeah, I want to catch every single game. Yeah. Guaranteed he'd say that. Yeah. He should have been catching and in the lineup in that game against Toronto. Right. He consistently punts on these day games because it's the matchups. It's day game after a night game. Yeah. There's extenuating circumstances for everything. And in a playoff chase against a team that's in front of you, and it's also in your own division in a game that you need to win, you need to be willing to ask Adley Rutschman to give you that game. Right. And then rest him in the day game on Thursday.
I have a feeling we'll be seeing Robinson Chirinos today in one capacity.
Guaranteed. Robinson Chirinos is catching and batting 8th.
That just reminds me of another point real quick. I'm actually going to save that for final thoughts. I have a final thought that relates to this, but I think that I totally agree. You can't punt these games, especially when you're in a playoff race and you're against the Blue Jays. I mean, that's a team that you have to beat. You have to go out there and make every game count against the Blue Jays. It doesn't matter as much against the Cubs. They're not a divisional opponent. They're not even in your league. Mm-hmm. So it's just, to me, you've got to go out there and do everything you can to win that game, and he didn't. And that's a problem.
Yeah, it is. And the Orioles have lost 5 straight day games. Mm-hmm. They've lost 5 straight day games. And I guarantee if you go back and look at the lineups in those day games, it's Chirinos, it's Nevin, it's McKenna, it's Odor, it's Phillips. They've lost these day games because he's not putting out a representative lineup that's good enough to win. And that's the bottom line.
Exactly.
Austin Hayes, 4 hits the last 2 games, 3 doubles. Swing decision still not great. Is this a guy who, and you said it to me that you said something to me that I won't repeat. I'll let you say it if you want to on the air. It wasn't anything bad. I just don't want to say anything if you don't want to say it.
I'm trying to think of what it was. So.
About Hayes and him being here.
Okay.
Right. I guess I kind of just gave that away. But anyway, is this a guy who you continue to trot out there? And that's the other thing about, God, man, I didn't mean for this to be a crap fest all over Brandon Hyde. But the fact remains that he's continuing to bat. Up until yesterday, he was continuing to bat Austin Hayes in run-producing spots in the order, and he had 4 RBIs. Yesterday was his 5th RBI since July 1st.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Is this a guy that you continue to play every day, or do you now look at it as, okay, well, I'm going to have Stowers in left, Santander in right, Hayes in center. I'm going to DH so-and-so, and I'm going to DH Vavra, and I'm going to have Mountcastle at first base, and Hayes isn't going to play today.
Yeah, I unfortunately think it's getting tougher. I'm a guy who loves Austin Hayes.
I love Austin Hayes, too.
I have always thought Austin Hayes is going to be a superstar in this league, and unfortunately, I would never call him that at this point, but I think he asserted himself in the beginning of this year and even in previous years as a guy who could be a very good starter for this team.
He was an all-star caliber player through June.
The problem with Austin Hayes, and the problem that's always been with Austin Hayes, is that he's incredibly inconsistent and doesn't really put together great stretches one after another.
And he gets hurt every year, whether it's a freak thing or not, it happens every year.
And as much as I love this guy, you look at a number of factors here, including the fact that the Orioles have an unbelievable amount of outfield talent coming right along. And I start to get a little bit confused about where Hayes' future ends up. And I'm not sure what exactly the comment I made was, but I have started looking at Colton Cowser and thinking that he could be the immediate replacement for Austin Hayes. And I'm thinking as early as, maybe middle of next year. Mm-hmm. I think Colton Cowser is an unbelievable player. And like I said before, with the swing decisions he makes and the professional at-bats he gives you, that's something that Austin Hayes doesn't. Austin Hayes doesn't really give you a lot of professional at-bats. It's a lot of swing and miss. It's a lot of chase. And the same thing can be said about a lot of guys. Like Jorge Mateo does the same thing, and Ryan Mountcastle does the same thing as well. But I think with Austin Hayes, we're seeing it really start to turn into bad numbers and bad stretches. He was batting like 182 over his last 30 days, I think last time we did this show. Mm-hmm. So to me, at some point you're going to have to start saying, let's look into the future. Austin Hayes is a fine player. He's a good player. but there's a lot of factors that could lead to him being replaced by Colton Cowser or someone else pretty soon. I think that's a problem.
With a hot month of September, Hayes could get to 20 homers and 40 doubles.
Yeah.
And that's a damn good year.
Very good year.
But think about what the numbers could be if he didn't just completely disappear in July and August.
Right.
Like it was like he was not at the plate. It was like he wasn't playing.
And the thing is with that is we know he can do better. This is a guy who's extremely talented and has all the power and all the ability to do things, but it's just that he can't consistently put it together, and it's frustrating.
And the other thing is, and these are freak injuries, him being hit so much. Look how close he stands to the plate.
He does. He hangs over.
Look at how close he stands to the plate, and it's like, all right, man, look. Getting hit by a pitch sucks, and you're probably really, really frustrated. I remember being at the game where he yelled G, F, and D.
Yeah.
When he got hit on the hand again. And I get that that's your stance, and that's how you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But you're going to get hit by pitches more than other people when you're standing basically on the white line of the batter's box. And that's not really a freak thing anymore. That's your fault. Because and that's also why you can't get to the inside pitches. How many times do you see him swing at a pitch that's 6 inches inside?
It's usually at his neck, too.
Yeah.
Those high and inside pitches are ones that he fails to hit basically every time. It's really rough watching him try to hit those. And he chases. I mean, that's what he is. He's a free swinger. Swing decisions are such a big part of what the Orioles are doing right now. And that's for me, why I think he probably doesn't have a huge, long future with this team, unfortunately. And you look at the age, too. I believe he's 27 years old already. And you look at the Orioles' ability to compete in 24 and 25, and I'm not sure those really go together. It probably goes together this year, next year, but at what point does he start to hit a downturn? At what point has he really peaked? Maybe he's peaked already. I don't know. But it's certainly interesting to watch. And I again, the Orioles have so much outfield talent, and so much of it's close to being ready to go. I think that's a huge problem for Austin Hayes.
2 months ago, we were talking about him maybe being the best player on the team, and he and how he deserved consideration for the All-Star game. Now we're talking about can you continue to play him every day?
And I think you predicted this. You said back in April, you said, well, he's going to have a great April, great May, because he always starts off pretty hot and then just doesn't really end up in the middle of the season be very good. But at the end of the year, he's always turned it on in September. Yeah. Always. So we'll see what he does. He'll probably have a great September. I wouldn't be surprised at that
They
at all.
really need him and Mountcastle to take off these last 5 to 6 weeks if they want to make the playoffs. And so we talked a little bit about Gunnar Henderson, and Tuesday would mark 43 games left in the season. Mm-hmm. He's playing over at first base. He's hit a little bit of a downward trend with the bat, but I mean that happens. You don't just mash all year long. Everybody has their slumps, right? But just before that, he was tearing the cover off the ball, and he'll get back to that again. Right. To me, when they said he's going to get some work at first base, my immediate thought was they're going to call him up. Mm-hmm. They're going to play him every day wherever there's a fit for him to play. If it's at third base, if it's at shortstop to give Mateo a blow, if it's at second base, if it's at first base, they're going to call him up. Right. Maybe as early as this coming Tuesday.
It's possible.
And Nevin's going down. Nevin's going down to the minors. I think that's written all
Nevin, over. Nevin is a guy that I've at this point do not expect much from when it comes to the plate. There's a lot of swing and miss there again. And you said it before, but the amount of impactful hits that I can remember in the past 2 or 3 months are very little. He just doesn't come up with a lot of impactful hits. And this is a guy who's here for his bat, frankly. Mm-hmm. He's not here to play defense. He's an okay third baseman. He's been fine. But he's here to hit, and he hasn't.
And then you look at Arauz, you look at Nevin, and they're taking up roster spots to not play. Yeah. Right? And Arauz honestly should have never been on the team to begin with.
Yeah, he's I think a little more interesting just because he's 23 years old. And
he's fast. And
he's probably a guy you can stash in the minors, and that's why they probably claimed him, hoping they could stash him in the minors for a little while.
Well, they could have stashed him in the minors and kept Richie Martin up here, but instead they sent Richie Martin down and left Arauz up here and then didn't play him for 2 weeks. And when they finally did play him, he got hurt. Yeah. Right? For me, I really think that, and that's kind of after the trade deadline, when they made the moves that they made, but they didn't really add to their team. And then Mike Elias said, we're going for it. That's when I started thinking Gunnar Henderson's coming. Gunnar Henderson is coming this year and the writing's on the wall for me that he's coming up. If it's not next week, it's pretty damn soon. It'll be before September 1st. I think next week makes sense. Debut him at home in a playoff race. Yeah. We'll see. But I really think that he's probably getting the call for Tuesday. That's my thought on Gunnar Henderson. Today's Orioles Banter has been brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now on the cover. Both Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan as the season gets underway, and everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. It's the Bat-Around.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with their popular Korean #2 sauce. And try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or backed by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Visit Howard County presents the 2022 Major League Quidditch Championship, a Harry Potter-inspired, real-life, full-contact, mixed-gender, 12-team Quidditch tournament happening at Troy Park in Elkridge, August 20th through the 22nd. For tickets and more information, go to visithowardcounty.com. Maryland, be open for it.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also, inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State. And we give you everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of demos, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds. Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
We are back on the Bat-Around with that old Glenn Clark radio music, and it's fitting because Press Box's Glenn Clark Radio is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. You can watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or facebook.com/PressBoxSports, Or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcast. Guys, you have no excuse to not be tuning in to Glenn Clark Radio in one way or another. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Tim Kirkjian, Kobe Mayo, Evan Washburn, and much more. Find those interviews now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com.
Right now.
You know, you were just talking about how, like, we were Zach and I played golf yesterday, and Zach has gotten so good at golf in such a small period of time. Like, I was watching him play yesterday, and he shot an 86.
Mm-hmm.
And the swing, the shots that you hit, the putting, so far and away better than when I first played with you last October.
Yeah.
Like, so much better of a golfer. And we were talking about my wife and how I like, once you get married and once you start having more responsibilities added to your plate, you can't do the things that you used to do. And one of the things I can't do as much anymore is I can't play golf. Like, Zach has the opportunity to go work at golf all the time because he doesn't have a wife and he doesn't have kids. Not that I have kids. He doesn't
got Bruce.
He doesn't have a full-time job, right? You don't have a full-time job.
No, I don't have a full-time job.
Right.
No.
He's a college student and he has the opportunity to go. Right, I have Bruce. He has the opportunity to go and work on his game, right? And
that's where I spend the majority of my free time.
Yeah, is working on his golf game, and it shows. It shows. You've improved. You've had so much improvement in everything, the putting especially. But so anyway, so we're on one of the tee boxes yesterday, and Zach's asking me, he's like, why don't you take Laura golfing if you want to golf more? And I said, she really likes Top Golf, and I took her golfing once, and she got she wasn't very good. And I don't
Laura, if you're listening, hello.
And I said, I don't know that I have the patience to watch somebody take 100 shots on 9 holes, right? Like, I don't know if
That's basically what I did the first time we went out and played last October.
And I was like, I don't know if I have the patience for that. And I was like, but Laura's not the kind of person, she wouldn't care if she was getting better as long as she was having a good time. I was like, if she went out there and consistently was terrible, but she was having a great time, that's all that she would care about. Fitting, Zach, I get home yesterday, and Laura asks me, my wife asks me, how was golf? And she said, did you have fun? And I said, yeah, I shot an 85, Zach shot an 86. And she goes, I just think it's so weird that you guys base whether or not you had fun on how well you play.
Oh, that's everything. That's everything.
And I thought, and I was like, and I told her the story. I was like, I literally just told Zach today that you wouldn't care if you were getting better as long as you were having fun. And she did say, she's like, I would want to get better at it, but she's like, that wouldn't be my top priority.
Right.
I want to have a good time. But yeah, when you go out and you play golf, golf's a hard sport, and if you're competitive, if you have that competitive nature, you want to play well.
Right.
If you're not playing well, golf is a very frustrating and annoying game.
Especially when the people you're playing with are drastically better than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it really starts to be. And I mean, the first time I played with you, I think I shot a 111, and it probably was more like a 125 with all the mulligans I took back then. So it's definitely frustrating, and it makes you want to get a lot better.
Right.
It makes you want to get a lot better.
And golf isn't one of those games where, like, some guys, they like to just go out there and hack the crap out of the ball and just drink a case of beer. I get worse if I drink on the golf course. And if I'm not playing well, I don't want to be there. I don't want to. Like, a lot of times I'll be on the 12th hole and I'm like, why am I here? I
do that all the time.
You know, like, why did I waste $60 to go? Now, it wasn't $60 to play golf yesterday, but it was close. Why did I waste $60 to come out here and get mad for 18 holes, right? But yesterday I played well.
You did play well.
And I told Zach, I'm getting nervous. I don't know that I'm ever gonna beat you again.
You will.
I've beaten Zach by 1 stroke each of the last 2 times that we've played, and you're gonna keep getting better, and I'm gonna keep staying right at the same level because I don't have the time to get better.
I don't know. You shot at 82 at Wetlands the other day. I don't think I haven't gotten that low yet.
But the last 2, if I go out and I warm up. And when I shot the 82 at Wetlands, and I play mulligan free golf. I don't take mulligans. So these are like legit scores. So like, if I go out and I hit the driving range and I get a bunch of swings in and I'm loose, that's when I shoot an 82 at the Wetlands. I shot an 85 at Geneva yesterday. Now, and these aren't the hardest courses in the world, but it's still golf because I'm warmed up and I'm loose. If I go out there and I get out of my car into the golf cart and go out on the golf course, I'm going to shoot a 95 because I'm not going to start. I'm not going to warm up to the 9th hole. Right. But anyway, this isn't a golf show. I just thought that it was funny that
we talked about that.
We talked about Laura and her mentality, and then she asked me and told me her mentality, and I was like, I already knew. Anyway, it's time for Take to Rake. Take to Rake is brought to you by Weekend at Bookies. Every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports, Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. Sports betting has finally come to Maryland, and we are ready to help you win some money. So you can tune in every other Thursday at 11:40 for Weekend at Bookies, again with Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports, Brad Kronthal. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. So this read was such that it read so clunky to me last week that I wanted to split it into two. And I did the first part really well. I did Simply the Bets really well. Weekend at Bookies, I butchered that. It's probably why it's supposed to be just one read. Anyway, time for Take the Rake. So last week, here's what we did. We basically had a tie between Rutschman and Mountcastle last week. Mm-hmm. So we said we were going to take the weekend to see who won. Well, Mountcastle did not play on Sunday, and he went 0 for 4, I think it was, on Saturday. Rutschman played Saturday and Sunday, and he went 1 for 9 with a single. So we can't give Adley Rutschman the win because he went 1 for 9 and he was the only one of the two to get a hit. If you want to take the other two games, the 2-game sample, Mountcastle's next game, which was at Monday, he went 1 for 3 with a homer. Yeah. But that wouldn't be fair either because he didn't play on Sunday and it was for the rest of the weekend. So we decided that as much as we tried to not have a tie, last week was a tie. You can't say that Rutschman raked when he went 1 for 9. No. Right, so last week was a tie. This week, not much better. Zach took Jorge Mateo. He went 5 for 24 with a home run, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, a 208, 296, 375, 671 slash line. I took Austin Hayes. He went 4 for 24. All 4 hits came in the last 2 days. 3 doubles, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Yeah. He didn't rake. Mateo didn't rake either, but he had the big home run. He got on base more. Jorge Mateo won, even though nobody raked. We're not doing back-to-back ties. Zach, you won with Jorge Mateo, which means you get to pick first and give your final thoughts first today.
Oh, I'm going Adley Rutschman. How can you not? He's been the best player on the team at the moment, and I think he's going to be for the foreseeable future. You got to go Adley Rutschman.
Man.
Pick Kyle Stowers. Come on and do it. Pick Kyle Stowers.
Come on, get happy. No. I think I got to take Tony Taters.
Okay.
I think I got to take Tony Taters. That. I mean, he was 0 for 14 going into last night's game. But I think he's going to bounce back here. He had the 3-hit game, including the home run last night. I'm taking Anthony Tony Taters Santander for Take to Rake this week. Let me notate this so that we have this ready for next week. So I don't forget. What the hell just happened?
We probably will. No, we used to forget a lot, so I'm glad we're taking the notes now. We're making it an official thing. But
and who did you take again? Rutschman.
Adley Rutschman.
Adley Rutschauer.
I have a final thought related to Adley Rutschman, actually. Sure. You know, they bring up Adley Rutschman, and he automatically becomes, in my opinion, the best catcher in baseball.
Yeah.
And he's automatically, in my opinion, again, the best player on this team. They really, really, really miss Adley Rutschman when he doesn't play. This team misses him in every single capacity. Mm-hmm. To me, they have to go out this offseason, and I would make it one of my priorities, and get a real backup catcher that's actually going to be able to hit in his place when he can't play. It's so important, in my opinion, to get someone who is actually a decent fill-in, because Robinson Chirinos is hitting like 160. To me, you've got to get a guy who can play better defense than Chirinos can, because Chirinos does not play good defense all year. He's a terrible framer. He's better than Pedro Severino was, that's for sure, and he's better than Chance Sisco was as well. So it's a small upgrade, but that wasn't exactly a high bar. You gotta go out and get a catcher that can realistically back this guy up, because he's not going to play every day, and that's unrealistic to say that he would be able to. So go get a guy who's decent. Don't pay him too much, but I would be willing to pay a decent amount to a backup catcher who can come in and really fill in for him well.
Well, and the thing about that, though, is if you get a catcher that can hit, they're probably not a backup. right?
True.
That's where I want a catcher that can hit and pitch frame. I don't want to pay him too much, and I want him to be okay with playing twice a week, right? Like those things.
It's a tough sell.
That's a unicorn. That doesn't exist.
Maybe you
right?
trade for one.
But here's where I am with that is maybe your backup catcher next year, somebody like Maverick Hanley or Brett Cumberland, somebody who can get on base, can have a decent OPS and a decent slugging, like a decent OPS.
Yeah.
That maybe they're not going to hit 280, but they might hit 230, and you're not. It would be like having Nick Hundley back up Matt Wieters, right? Where Nick Hundley was capable with the bat. I think he hit 13 home runs that year. That when Wieters went down with Tommy John surgery, but he was meant to be the backup, right? And so somebody like that, somebody that can come in, they can hit about 230. Maybe they have decent power that shows its face every now and again, but you don't feel like, oh, they're in the lineup, that's 4 automatic outs.
Exactly, and that's how I feel with Chirinos right now. That's when he comes to the plate, I have zero confidence because he hasn't shown me anything otherwise.
I did see the other day his average was all the way up to 178 though.
Ooh.
But then I think he took an over in the game.
It doesn't surprise me.
So my final thought is also Adley Rutschman related, and it is with the extension.
Okay.
Stan was like, I don't understand why we have to give these extensions to people. Well, you didn't, but then people started doing it, right? And
it's become a thing that happens.
You don't have to understand why it happens, but you have to know that it happens, right? And so if you're looking around the league and you're watching guys who you think you're better than or just as good as get extensions in their rookie year or in the offseason following their rookie year, like big-time extensions, and then your team isn't willing to do that, you're going to remember that.
Yeah.
Right? So then if you want these guys to sign with you long-term later on, they're going to remember that you didn't try and do right by them earlier when all the other teams did. And that's why you have to extend Adley Rutschman. If this is 1995, then Adley Rutschman probably plays 3 or 4 years. You probably even get to that final year of arbitration before you sign him. It's 2022.
Yeah.
You got to give this guy an extension, if not this offseason, the next offseason, or sometime during the season next year, where you're buying out the final 3 years of his arbitration, and then some, and you're keeping him in an Orioles uniform until he's 32, 33 years old. And then he's probably not the same player then that he is. But you want to make sure that you're keeping Adley Rutschman for as long as he is the best catcher in baseball. And you're paying him to be that.
Like you said, you don't really have to understand why it happens, but know that it does. The White Sox are the team that really started doing it first. I mean, they did it with Tim Anderson very early on in his career, and then Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert and all these other guys.
Well, the Rays did it with Evan Longoria.
Rays did it with Longoria.
And
now
I think the Cubs did it with Chris Bryant.
Yeah, and this is the way that you compete in a division. You compete against the Red Sox and the Jays and the Yankees and the Rays because, that was a good rhyme right there, because they do this. So you've got to do it too. Well, you can't sit on the sidelines and say, well, all the other teams are doing it, but we're not going to.
Well, and the other thing is, you let him get to arbitration. He doesn't want to sign a full-year deal because he remembers that you didn't help him when you could have taken care of him.
Yeah.
And then he goes and signs with somebody else, right? Whereas you can buy out his arbitration years and give him a few extra years and probably pay him $5 to $8 million less per year than what he would be worth at the end of that contract, which is saving you money. Like to me, it's a no-brainer that you go extend Adley Rutschman. I don't want to be, and Stan's right. The Orioles did come to Manny Machado. It was reported by Ken Rosenthal way back when that the Orioles did come to Manny Machado with a contract extension offer, I think after his 2013 or 2014 season, and they were $1 million apart annually. So if it was like they were offering him 8 years at $72 million, and he wanted 8 years at $80 million, that was the difference, and the Orioles balked at that. And then you don't trade Manny Machado until his final season when he has 3 months left. You don't trade him till then, and you get back. The only thing that you've gotten that's noteworthy is Dean Kramer, and he was really good his last start. He's been good this year, but how good is he? Is he another guy who, like Stan said, is out over their skis?
Real quick, Orioles lineup today just released. It is a punt lineup. It's another day game punt lineup. Austin Hayes in the leadoff spot in left field. Adley Rutschman DHing today at number 2. Anthony Santander in right field batting third. Ryan Mountcastle cleanup spot. Ramon Arias, Jorge Mateo, Ryan McKenna, Tyler Nevin, and Robinson Chirinos behind Kyle Bradish on the mound. That's awful.
I mean,
an awful lineup today.
I knew Nevin was going to be playing today. Your 6, 7, I mean, your 7, 8, 9 hitters don't give you an opportunity.
No.
And against Michael Wacha, I don't see. I mean, Ryan McKenna's hitting 264. He's having a nice year for a fourth outfielder.
Mm-hmm. But his on-base percentage is only like 316.
I would not be surprised to see him go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts.
I wouldn't be either.
In the game today. Tyler Nevin, you're not getting anything out of him. Chirinos' average is up to 184.
Ooh.
He's up to 184.
Not great still.
But yeah, I mean the top 6, okay, but and no Kyle Stowers.
No Kyle Stowers against the righty.
Which
Brandon Hyde just said yesterday he would face righties almost every time a righty was on the mound.
He legitimately just said
he did.
He's going to get a lot of play, a lot of playing time.
He said,
and he doesn't have him in the lineup the second day that he's here against a righty.
I don't know. I just have to question it at this point. I have to question it.
I can't defend the moves that this guy makes anymore.
I can't.
I can't defend it. And oh man, it's like, and watch, it'll be a reverse lock. But I look at this lineup, I look at who's pitching, I look at who's pitching for the Orioles, and I don't see how they win this game. You just punted the second game of a series you need to win.
Right.
I don't see how they win this game today. I just don't. They're not. You know what? They're not going to win today. I'm saying it.
It's infuriating. It really is.
I'm saying it out loud. The Orioles are not going to win today, and when they don't, it's Brandon Hyde's fault.
Yeah.
It's Brandon Hyde's fault. You don't need to play Tyler Nevin.
No, you really don't.
You don't need to play Ryan McKenna.
Right.
All right? If you want Chirinos to be...
Chirinos is acceptable because we know Rutschman has to get days off.
He's the only one that I accept.
Right.
You don't need to play Nevin today, and you don't need to play McKenna.
Right.
Now, and I'm not saying that I love Rougned Odor, but I trust his ability to run into one more than I trust Tyler Nevin.
Why is Kyle Stowers not in place of Ryan McKenna here? I mean, this is if he's such a matchups guy. If Brandon Hyde loves matchups that much. Ryan McKenna loves facing the lefties, which Michael Wacha is not. Right? I mean, that's Michael Wacha is not a lefty.
You got to look at the fact that if you're playing Chirinos and you're DHing Rutschman. That means if you want to keep Santander in the lineup, if you want to keep Hayes in the lineup, and you want to keep Mullins in the lineup, an outfielder has to be left out. And Hayes just came off that 3-hit game yesterday, so Stowers should be playing.
So leave McKenna out. That's fine.
So wait a second. I'm looking at it. Hold on.
What I'm saying here is that
Mullins is off too.
Mullins is off. Correct.
Against the righty.
Correct. That's what I'm saying right here. That. Ryan McKenna is the guy he thinks hits lefties well, so that's fine. But Michael Wacha is a righty. And you're sitting your lefties.
Stowers not playing is also because Mullins isn't in there, and you want to get McKenna in there. I just don't understand this. I don't understand. I would much rather have Mullins playing and have Stowers in over Hayes, who's been struggling. Or Stowers in over Santander, I just picked him for take the rake to give him a day off.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
this is another punt lineup, and whatever, man. Look, they're gonna lose, and you all can blame Brandon Hyde for this garbage lineup that he put out that he didn't need to put out. He didn't need to put this lineup out. This isn't a lineup that says, hey, I'm going after the playoffs. This is a lineup that says, I got to get my guys their time.
Right.
You're in a playoff chase, man. You can't be everybody's best friend.
Right.
Tyler Nevin shouldn't see the field.
Agreed.
Anyway, I liken the Adley Rutschman contract extension, the need for that, to Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar Jackson, we don't know if he's going to sign with the Raiders. I'm inclined to believe that he will. But the reports are that, A, he's cutting the contract talks off once they get to week 1. And, B, he's asking for more money than Deshaun Watson, and he wants it all guaranteed.
My level of concern a year ago was like a 2.
I never had a level of concern.
It's like an 8.
I'm not at an 8, but the whole comparison there is if Deshaun Watson, if the Browns... And Andrew Berry is that his name?
Yeah,
Andrew Berry.
Andrew Berry.
He's a Bel Air High School graduate.
He is, and a Harvard grad too. Yeah,
he's from Harvard County. He's from Bel Air. He's from my stomping grounds, right?
Yeah. He's about your age, and I believe he played football for them at Bel Air, so you probably played against him. Pretty cool.
He's going to get fired by the Cleveland Browns.
You think so?
They're going to fire him.
Why do you say that?
He gave Deshaun Watson 7 years, 230, or is it 5 years? 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
$230 million.
Knowing.
Fully guaranteed. Yeah. And he's not going to, he may not get fired this year, but this is like the one of the moves that's like, well, he did this. And then he did this, and maybe this wouldn't have been as bad, but he did this, and now it's magnified, right? Yeah. And the reason I compare the two contract things, Rutschman to Lamar Jackson, if the Browns don't do that, then Lamar Jackson is probably willing to take a contract that pays him, that's backloaded, that pays him $30 million this year, $35 million next year, right, and then $50 million at the end of the contract every year, right? And not all of it's guaranteed. But because Deshaun Watson, who hasn't played in basically 2 years when he finally steps on the field again, because he got all of his $230 million guaranteed, and Lamar Jackson's a better player than he is.
Oh, easily, yeah.
This is where you're at. Yeah. Lamar Jackson wants that because if he got that, I definitely deserve that, and probably more. And that's what you're looking at with Adley Rutschman. Where Adley Rutschman, great guy. I love the person who said he's like a golden retriever. I love that. But if Adley Rutschman is looking at the landscape of Major League Baseball and he's seeing all these young guys get locked up well before their arbitration years, and the Orioles aren't doing that, how does he not look at that and say, why aren't you doing right by me?
Right.
And that's what Lamar Jackson's thinking. They gave Deshaun Watson that, step that up, because if you don't want to give it to me, somebody will. Somebody will.
100%.
Absolutely will. And it'll probably be the Browns once Deshaun Watson sucks and they
Certainly
don't have
could
him.
be.
It's 12:30. I didn't realize how late it was. That's going to do it for us here on the Bat Around. He's Zach Goodman. I'm Paul Valley. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Thanks to Nathan Ruiz for being able to make time for us in his busy schedule from the Baltimore Sun. We will see you next week.